Could the unintended energy consequence be a push towards renewables? Call or text. Then we'll speak with Alan Khazei, founder of City Gear, on the importance of public service and a new GI Bill for civilian service. Plus, Harvard's Alex Green on caring for America's disabled.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey zooms in with the latest on the war in Iran and the price of oil. And National Security Analyst Juliette Kayyem discusses war and AI with more lethality and less oversight than ever before. Then we'll end the show on a lighter note ahead of the Oscars this weekend. Popcorn and you. What is the best way to make it? Twice buttered, obviously. Tons of salt. Is it healthy? Really a heart attack? And how do you like it best? It's all ahead on BPR, live from the BPL.
Prices. But there's a limit on how much oil can be pulled out of storage at a time. You can't pull it all at once. Analysts say global reserves are not enough to make up for the daily shortfall created by the war. Camila Dominowski, NPR News.
Lebanon's health ministry says a Red Cross paramedic has died of wounds sustained in an Israeli airstrike. More than 570 people have been killed in Lebanon. NPR's Jawad Rizkallah has more from Beirut.
The ministry says Red Cross paramedic Youssef Assaf was on a rescue mission Monday in the southern town of Majd al-Zoun when an Israeli strike hit his ambulance. He died a day later from his wounds. The ministry said it's the first Red Cross ambulance struck by Israel since October 2023, though other civil defense ambulances were also hit. The Lebanese Red Cross said it deeply regrets the loss of a volunteer devoted to humanitarian service, adding paramedics are not military targets under international humanitarian law. The Israeli military previously told NPR the accusation of deliberate targeting was, quote, absurd, saying it only attacked military targets. Jawad Rizkallah, NPR News, Beirut.
In the U.S., artificial intelligence company Anthropic says billions of dollars in revenue could be at stake in its legal fight with the Pentagon. Anthropic is suing to block the Defense Department's designation of the AI company as a supply chain risk. NPR's Bobby Allen reports.
Anthropic says some of its current and future work could be in jeopardy if the Pentagon labeling it a supply chain risk remains. The standoff is over Anthropic refusing to allow its powerful AI models to be used for autonomous lethal weapons and surveilling American citizens. It is the first time the U.S. government has designated a non-adversarial country with a label, which is usually used against firms that could sabotage American interests, like China's Huawei. While its $200 million contract is a fraction of Anthropic's $19 billion in annual revenue, the company says being on a federal blacklist will spook some customers to the tune of billions of dollars. The Pentagon says AI companies cannot dictate how the government will deploy its technology, especially in wartime operations. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
You're listening to NPR.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH Newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. Looks like Worcester is in need of a new headquarters for its police department. The Worcester Guardian reporting the city council has started exploring options to replace the crumbling decades-old building. Councilors voted unanimously to advance an order requesting further planning and evaluation of options for a new headquarters. Worcester Mayor Joe Petty says improvements to the department's current headquarters have been discussed for years, but he believes the city should now begin preparing for the future by thinking of a new facility. Massachusetts Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell is the keynote speaker today at a Women's History Month conference. The event is sponsored by the Massachusetts Trial Court and Massasoit Community College, and Campbell is one of 10 women being honored. The conference is being held today in Norwood at the Skating Club of Boston. And former Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker, who now leads the National Collegiate Athletic Association, or NCAA, has been announced as this year's commencement speaker at the College of the Holy Cross in Worcester. Worcester Guardian reporting that the ceremony is scheduled for Friday, May 22nd at the DCU Center, and it's a big one, too. The college's ceremony marks the 180th graduating class. Baker, who became the NCAA's sixth president in 2023, accepted the job during a period of significant upheaval and transformation in college athletics. 51 degrees in Boston right now, and it is 52 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include FJC, a foundation of donor-advised funds working to maximize the impact of charitable giving and to create customized philanthropic solutions. Learn more at fjc.org.
Jason Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. A couple of programming notes. The Attorney General of the Commonwealth will be with us March 25th at 11 o'clock. And the Governor of the Commonwealth, Maura Healey, will be with us March 27th at 11 o'clock. They'll both be at the library. And we want to wish a happy birthday to Ann DeAngelis, who's in the audience today, who came down to see the show. I don't know where Ann is, but happy birthday.
That's great.
Thank you very much for coming down. Good morning, Jim.
And to you, Marjorie. We're seeing the impacts of Trump and Netanyahu's chosen war with Iran. And beyond the humanitarian impacts, consumers are feeling the pinch here at home, at the gas pump as prices continue to climb, and obviously with home heating oil. A fifth of global oil production passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Do you know how many barrels a day? Did I tell you this morning? I didn't know this till last night.
No, a lot.
18 million barrels a day. 18 million. And with traffic there essentially totally stopped, causing massive increases in gas and oil prices. Meanwhile, new reporting is revealing the cost of munitions alone for just the first 2 days of war was $5.6 billion. So we're shelling out as much as $2 or $3 billion a day to bomb Iran, and that's just the tip of the cost iceberg. But let's return to the higher costs at the pump and in home energy. Do you think Donald climate change is a hoax? Trump might inadvertently be ushering in a new era of energy independence and renewables, perhaps even a Green New Deal after all. A change from fossil fuels in our cars and homes to renewables like solar and electric, so we are not dependent on the ebbs and flows and eccentricities of the fossil fuel world. Or are you a pessimist? You might say a realist, I don't know. Or have we once again been taken for fools and we're now stuck with fossil fuels forever? No real alternatives in sight. The number is 877-301-8970. Was the story in the Globe about EV drivers?
It was a great story.
Yeah, was that what inspired you for this?
I thought you might want to start, Mr. Tesla, la la.
Well, I am
worried
like
about
that.
Gas
tell
prices.
people what the Globe story said, and I am in that boat.
EV drivers' cost savings jump with rise in gas prices. They're talking about how people that have electric cars do not have to worry about gas prices. Obviously, they quote this guy, Jim Garrett, lives in Northampton. He talked about the wonderful freedom from dependence on imported oils. He said it's a step towards resilience and self-reliance. It reduces the need to depend on regimes in the Middle East. Come on in, the water's fine, he says. And they quote a bunch of different people who are saying that they not only have electric cars, but they have solar panels, they have heat pumps, they're not suckers in a way, and they have the money to do it, I should add, because it's expensive for people to do it. But I feel like we're kind of a nation of suckers that, as Bill McKibben has said was over and over again, the head of the UN has said over and over again, that alternative energy is cheaper now. It's cheaper and it's stable, but climate change, according to the president, is a hoax. And you think that these kinds of things. I mean, we briefly talked about this after the Russia invaded Ukraine, because then oil shot up then too, but it was just a flash in the pan. We went right back to...
He's making a ton of money because of this crisis?
ExxonMobil's making a ton of money.
You just mentioned who else is making a ton of money. Russia is making a ton of money as a result of this. By the way, there is somebody who gets this, and obviously been inadvertent, because Trump hates renewables, hates clean energy. I think that's a fair description. He got rid of virtually all of the tax credits it made, for example, EVs more affordable. Here's a quote from PBS, actually, from the Secretary General of the UN, Guterres. The turmoil we are witnessing today in the Middle East makes it evident that we are facing a global energy system largely tied to fossil fuels, where supply is concentrated in a few regions. Every conflict risks sending shockwaves through the global economy. In past oil shocks, countries had little choice but to absorb the pain. Now they have an exit ramp. Homegrown renewable energy has never been cheaper, more accessible, or more scalable. The resources of the clean energy era cannot be blockaded or weaponized. Again, that's the Secretary General of the UN. So do you think, I talk about perverse outcomes, is it possible that despite Trump's moronic opposition to clean energy, that his war in Iran and Netanyahu's war in Iran may cause some holdouts to move in a clean energy direction. Our number is 877-301-8970 is the number.
I did not realize that the state of Massachusetts has added more than 700 fast charging ports for EVs since the beginning of last year. I didn't know that. It doesn't say, but there's a 72% increase, which is, and we've...
Can I ask you a question?
What?
Where are they?
I don't know. I don't drive an electric car, so I'm not looking for them.
I do.
You
where
should
are
know
they?
where they are.
I don't know where they are.
I guess they're not near enough to you,
They're
Jim.
not,
I think we have
not.
one across the street, don't we?
We sort of do, yes. We do.
Yeah, we do. I think we have one in the garage over at WGBH.
We do.
Yeah, okay.
We do.
So you know that.
But it's a ripoff. Do you know that, by the way?
I did not know.
I don't want to get into this, but since I brought it up,
and
the price increases dramatically. You don't know this after 2 hours of charging. I have no idea. It's not GBH's fault. It's whoever owns the garage.
Well, that's an outrage.
Is screwing us. In any case, what?
But it is cheaper.
Who owns the garage? I don't want to get in trouble.
I don't know, but it's cheaper than when people are worried about at the pump now. And I also did not know that used EV prices are quite low, even for Tesla-las, although some people may not want to buy them because of Elon Musk. But the used ones are a pretty good deal, I guess. But the point is, it's we are massively polluting the whole world.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And if we could get off these, not be held, this is their leverage, right? To block the Strait of Hormuz, talking about possibly mining the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says that the oil tankers should, quote unquote, show some guts.
Mr. Bone Spur, they should show some guts.
And go through the Strait of Hormuz and, risk what they may. There's some question whether insurers are going to insure these oil tankers because they're worried about drones or they're worried about mines.
How come you didn't have a more dramatic response to 18 million barrels a day? Is that unbelievable?
It's a lot. It's
18 million barrels of oil a day?
It's a lot.
It's incredible.
And apparently the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, who seems to have made a lot of blunders
this week. Moron.
Yeah, he did not anticipate that there would be any problem with oil jumping or the Strait of
Hormuz. There'd be no disruption.
Hormuz. Yeah, he's kind of made a lot of miscalculations.
By the way, let's step back. Let's focus on the question at hand, which is this going to change anything? Are we just going to complain? Well, I don't have to complain because I don't I don't have a gas-powered vehicle. Are we just going to complain about how much gas prices and home heating oil prices have gone up and then move on when they come down some? I'm not convinced they're going to come down to where they were before. Or are people going to take matters into their own hands and move? And again, I want to say what you've said a million times, Bill McKibben says every time it's on the show, this is not alternative energy anymore. It is cheaper energy than fossil fuels.
The president thinks we should just all be, subject to what the Iranian deranged people that are running the country over there, not obviously the wonderful Iranian people who are suffering, but the leadership. That they're holding us hostage. Listen to this, Michael. This is somebody else says I paid $3.65 a gallon for oil in early February. Today I called and it's $4.89. And the guy says, they're both discounted, though, if I buy over 150 gallons. And then some other texter wants to know how we could have an energy crisis if we have all those full Venezuelan tankers.
Well, that's the point you made. I don't know who you were making it with yesterday. It's a really interesting question.
Why I thought we get rid of Madero's.
Well, apparently that they're going, the revenue are going into special accounts that, who has total control over, by the way? Donald Trump. 877-301-8970. Nobody remembers the question. I'll restate it. Do you think essentially this nightmare in Iran on so many levels, particularly back home, the economic pain that people are feeling as a result, is going to cause people to take actions that would ironically make Donald Trump unhappy, move to clean, renewable energy sources? Roy in New Bedford, let's take some calls. Roy in New Bedford, hi.
Hi there.
Hello there.
So my comment is I don't think the administration's stance on renewable energy is going to change. In fact, I think from a national security point, they'll make an excuse because of how dependent our military infrastructure is dependent on fossil fuels like carriers, fighter jets, and all these other military powers that we just rely on gas.
I'm not arguing they're going to, Roy, I wasn't clear. I'm not arguing they're going to change their stripes. So the American people are going to change their stripes.
Yeah, if the American people were off fossil fuels, it would make a big difference in terms of climate change. But go ahead, Roy.
I think that state by state, it'll be largely the Democratic cities that are going to continue to try and push green initiatives, like Massachusetts with offshore wind projects, but that they have the New Deal with Nova Scotia to try and push that. But I think it'll largely be blue state versus red state.
Well, I hope you're. I hope you're
wrong.
wrong. I have to say, whether you're in a red state or a blue state, or you're a red state or a blue stater, every poll shows the single most important thing is the personal economy. And you may be a big Trumpster. I don't mean you. One may be a big Trumpster, a big red stater, Roy. But if you saw your gas go up, what is it now, 60 cents? Give her in what, a week, 8 days, 9 days. My sense is you look around, and I hope you're wrong, and I hope I'm right, but we'll see. Roy, thanks much for your call.
Well, this piece from PBS talks about now the Iran war has caused this costly energy crunch. Some experts are wondering if selfishness and nationalism may be more likely way to save the planet than by thinking about the common. No, it's
pursuit of affordability. I mean, it's totally fine.
And also before clean energy became such a naughty word for Republicans, Texas, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, has more solar panels than the other state in the whole nation. Because Perry, that used to be the governor down there, got all this money to install them. And I think a lot of Biden's clean energy stuff before it got all pushed back went to red states. Did it not? What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing. Wasn't it Perry when he was running for president who said he wanted to eliminate 5 cabinet departments
3.
and he forgot what they were, and Mitt Romney had to remind him in a debate of what the others were?
The third one.
I think
he got the.
That's right. He ended up running the one that he wanted to get rid of. Jamie tells us.
Was it
energy? Deborah and Acton, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Deborah.
I'm well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
2 things. One quickly is to respond to your complaint, Jim, about the 2-hour limit on charging.
Yeah.
There's actually a sensible reason for this, because people have a tendency to pull into a place, plug in, and then stay there for hours and hours.
Yeah.
If you're fast charging, you don't need anywhere near 2 hours to full up.
Yeah, but
And
Deborah,
they want other people to.
The problem is that most people, the fast charging is much more expensive than medium range speed charging.
Yes.
And if you're doing medium range, instead of filling up in an hour, filling up may take 10 hours. And so maybe 5 hours of reasonable pricing rather than 2. I just think it's a bit compressed. I understand. You're right. That is the reason. But it's too tight is, I guess, where I'm going. But keep going.
Yeah. I mean, that said, if you're at a public facility charging, probably you don't need 5 hours to get full up to get where you're going. So
that's a good point.
That's part of the rationale as well.
That's a very good point. Go ahead.
The other quick thing I want to say is this. I read the Globe story. I'm all about electrification. And what I wanted to say is that many people do not know that generation of electricity in Massachusetts, generally between 50 and 55% still comes from natural gas. Mm-hmm. Let me say up front, driving EV, hands down, the net emissions are much lower, no question. But I do think that people who are invested in this electrification project should be making more noise with their legislatures and with the executive office, because DPU regulates, the utilities that do generation, in fair part from natural gas, to make renewables much more of a priority for the state.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I don't know if you're going in this direction. They should make it this would be a perfect opportunity, like today, for our relatively do-nothing legislature to increase tax credits, for example, maybe for a finite period of time, maybe a 2-month window, a 3-month window, to encourage people who are put off by the huge increases in gas and oil prices to make the switch. But Deborah, good call. Thank you very much for making it.
John Chelmsford wants you to know, Jim, that if you're looking for EV chargers, Chelmsford has put in a dozen just this year at the library, town hall, senior center, and various parking lots. And
can I ask you a question?
What?
What state is Chelmsford in? Okay. By the way, where is Chelmsford?
I don't know.
Let's see if I was just going to say, where is Chelmsford?
Where Chelmsford is. I think
you have no
I
idea,
think it's
right?
west.
Does anybody know where Chelmsford is here? Nobody knows. They're nodding. They don't know.
From Stuart
They don't
Norwell
know.
says, my brother-in-law in California is paying $6
I know.
a gallon
It's incredible.
for gas. And listen to this. Where's the person that, this is Lise from Provincetown. I have an EV and signed up for community solar as my electrical provider. Thanks to a choice of provider. I get a refund check in the mail some months, so my EV charging at my home is solar, even though I can't install panels on my roof. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
We're supposed to going to get the ones we can put on the back porch.
Those little plug-in things.
The little plug-in things that Bill McKibben
I'm not
talked
sure
about.
they're didn't Bill tell us they're not legal
They're
yet
not
in
legal
most
here.
states?
Well, our legislature is going to get on top of it.
I think they're going to do that during their 5 months vacation.
By
yeah.
2035, they should
By the way,
take care
if
of that.
anybody has any idea where Chelmsford is, can you call us at 877-301-8970? In the interim, we're talking about whether or not Trump's war and Netanyahu's war in Iran and the increase in prices for people is going to cause those very same people to make a decision about clean energy that they might not otherwise make.
Here's an existential question, Jim.
Yep.
If alternative energy sources are cheaper than fossil fuels, why isn't the free market system working? Would you like to answer that?
No.
Well,
Obviously, it takes some time. I mean,
Well, it's
the
not just
average
that.
person, excuse me, the first time Bill McKibben said to us that clean energy was cheaper than fossil fuels, neither of us knew. And I'd
No.
like to think we're semi on top of some of these things.
But I think part of it is that we have an administration now that is totally he said, give me a couple of $1 billion and I'll take care of you, to the oil industry before.
He did
He's
say that.
obviously taking care of
He
the
did
oil
say that.
industry. That's doing very well. He tried to shut down the wind farm
Yeah.
off of Cape Cod. He's tried to shut down wind farms all around the
Yes,
country.
he has.
He's taken away. But as people that talk about this know, the free market is going ahead anyway, because people, even at ExxonMobil, have realized that this is the future. We're just getting screwed, and we're polluting the planet. You know what was really sad after the Ukraine invasion? You know what some of the Europeans did? And Trump has done this too, going back to coal, which is the dirtiest of everything. Despite what? Clean coal?
Clean
coal.
By the way, Jamie answered our question, so I don't need any calls on it. Chelmsford is right on top of South Chelmsford, so that answers the question.
Thank you, Jamie.
Carl and Acton, you are next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Thank you for calling. Hi.
Hi there, Jim. I'm in Acton, which is right next to Chelmsford.
There you go. Where's
Is that
Acton?
true, by the way? The problem is we don't know where Acton is either. No,
It's next to-
actually, I do.
It's next to Sudbury.
Look at a map of Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. That's a good suggestion,
Isn't it
Carl.
near Sudbury? I think so.
Carl, take it
I
away.
was going to say
Yes.
that I think that climate change is as much of a cultural issue as it is an economic issue.
You're right.
You're right.
You
And
are
we know-
right.
We know from books like What's Wrong with Kansas?
What's the matter with Kansas?
Yep.
Thomas Frank.
What's the matter with Kansas? Exactly. That cultural issues are going to forgive the pun, trump economic issues.
Or at least complicate them, I
you
would
know,
say. That's a wonderful point, Carl, and thank you for
But
making
you know,
it. We
you would
appreciate
think
it.
if you were buying one of those driving around one of those big Ford 150 things, which they do make electric ones now.
150 things, yeah.
Yeah, a big pickup truck. The gas, the money alone would want you to get rid of it. I mean, think how much, I don't know how big those tanks are. What are they, 20-gallon tanks?
My
or something
neighbor
like that?
has an itty-bitty car, and he was complaining to me, and he's not poor, by the way, yesterday, about how upset he was about the prices. It was not just an anti-Trump screed. He was upset about the huge price jump.
Lots of people are telling us where Chelmsford is.
Where is it?
It is next to Lowell and Westford.
Oh, I know where Lowell
the old
is.
exit 34 off Route 3.
Fine. Okay, good.
So it's near Lowell.
How much time have you spent there?
In Chelmsford?
Yeah.
Don't pick on Chelmsford.
I'm not picking on it at all.
It's a lovely place.
When were you there last? Okay. Okay, you're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Actually, can we
Jim.
go? We apparently have somebody who does know where Chelmsford is, we hope, because they live there. Allie, is this true? You're really from Chelmsford?
Well, actually, technically, I'm 2 pounds over.
That's good. Close enough.
goodness.
Close enough.
Not every town that is west of 95 is out west.
Okay.
I mean, come on, folks. That's really, it's 495 now.
What is it, Allie, just briefly, because we want to stay on the topic at hand, what would you say is the single most positive thing you can say about Chelmsford? What is it? Okay, let's move on.
Friendly.
What? Oh, it's friendly.
It's LGBT friendly, and
that's actually pretty big.
The auditor, I believe, is a rep out here.
The auditor is a ref in Chelmsford? Well, that's a hell of an endorsement at Chelmsford. That's great.
Or she was at the No Kings rally.
Okay. Well, that really has helped a lot there. What are you calling about? Is that the only reason you're calling or what?
We have a lot of Chelmsford texts, Jim.
Oh, Allie, thank you for the call. Let's move on to the Chelmsford text. What do you have?
This texter wants to know that, Jim, I found it. Chelmsford is between Chatham and Chelsea. That's a good one. Okay.
I don't think that's true either, actually.
Alphabetically?
I missed that. I'm sorry. That's rather
what they
embarrassing
meant, and
on
the
my part.
alphabetically kind of thing. And lots of people say it's near Lowell, between Westport and Tewksbury.
Okay, we resolved that.
Says Martha and Acton.
I think you're making a bigger deal out of this than needed to be made. Okay. Mike in Boston, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Fine,
Very well, thank you.
So I just want to remind you, I called the last week and you guys were talking about the coat, like what we're wearing for the winter, and I said we should prepare ourselves because we're not going to have, because of the war, we're not going to have, any gas to heat our
I remember
house.
I remember you. Yep. I do.
I was joking, but actually the joke became true for a crisis. And this, I think everything was planning because, let's say our country, a big country as America, when we're talking about, a big war like that, it doesn't come, or we're not planning to it it doesn't come in one day.
That is correct.
Say, you have to be planning. What is the fact of that? What is the fact? You think a new regime, like we're saying, we think about, Iran,
Mike,
they were going to attack us.
I hate to cut you off. We're out of time, but can I make a suggestion? Senator Markey is joining us at noon, and our topic is going to be exactly yours about what the future holds vis-a-vis Iran. So please stick around, and thank you for your call.
Yes, and thank you for all your Chelmsford texts. I really appreciate it. We must have about 30 of them. Okay, coming up after this quick break, Alan Khazei, co-founder of City Year, a citizen service advocate, is going to join us next and talk about this great plan for high school seniors. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy, BPR, GBH, NEPM.
Every morning, you trust your alarm to wake you up. A cup of coffee to get things going. And a GPS to get you there on time.
Your route may be affected by...
For the news you need, trust GBH News.
Welcome to GBH's Morning Edition. Looking at local headlines this morning.
Get ready with us. GBH's Morning Edition with Mark Hurst. Weekdays from 6 to 10 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and MIT Federal Credit Union, committed to delivering financial services that help members bank with confidence. Memberships open to the public. More at mitfcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. And Boston Ballet, presenting The Dream, a program pairing Frederick Ashton's Shakespeare-inspired ballet and a dynamic world premiere by emerging choreographer Michael Stromae. Opens March 19th. Tickets at bostonballet.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Attorney General Campbell will join us for an hour on Wednesday, March 25th at the library for Ask the AG. Governor Maura Healey will join us for an hour 2 days later, Friday, March 27th, also at 11 o'clock at the library. Senator Markey will join us in 30 minutes to talk about the war in Iran. As our listeners know, one of my many soapbox items is the idea of required national service. Mandatory community or public service could be a shared experience among young people that heals the national divide. Our next guest knows a thing or two, if not everything, about public service. Alan Khazei is the co-founder of City Year. And I should say, by the way, one of our colleagues sitting right over there, Sandra Lopez-Burke, spent a couple of decades of her life working at that incredibly important organization. Alan is also the founder of the Change Foundation. He's got a fabulous idea to make a new GI Bill for civilian service and an idea for high school seniors that sort of meets me halfway. Alan, it's great to see you. How are you?
Great to be with you.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see you too.
Yeah, thank
Great
you
to
very
see
much for coming in, and on behalf of all the people that have had a great time at City Year, including your kid there. So where are we in 2026 in terms of public service volunteering, AmeriCorps, City Year? Where are we?
Well, I think we're sort of at challenging times, but also very hopeful, positive times. So the challenging is that there was a devastating Doge attack on AmeriCorps with a lot of cuts, a lot of great programs like Habitat for Humanity, which is beloved, was completely eliminated. The great news is thanks to Voices for National Service and the AmeriCorps field, people rallied, and there's actually a lot of bipartisan support, and the budget was essentially level funded, which I think is really, really great news in this environment where we lost PBS, we lost USAID, et cetera. The hopeful thing is that there's been new leadership, especially at the state level. Governor Cox from Utah, Republican, Governor Moore from Maryland, Democrat. Both have new ideas around service year fellowships, which was recommended by a commission I served on military, national, and public service. Other states are leading, Governor Newsom, Governor Polis. So there's momentum at the state level, really for the first time. And there's also really growing support for this idea.
Before we get to the ideas for the current thing, despite the many times we've had conversations, I'm not sure I ever asked you how you and your fellow Harvard friend came up with this concept in your dorm, Michael Brown, in your dorm rooms a century ago. What was happening that caused this to pop into your heads?
Well, I think it was divine intervention. I met Michael on September 8th, 1979. We were assigned to be roommates at Harvard, and we just connected. We were both raised with tremendous values from our parents, love of America. We really believed in the American dream. We were very patriotic. We were both Trekkies, because it was a show about the future. We were both huge Springsteen fans because he was constantly talking about how do we achieve the American dream. And we started this conversation that's been going on now for 47 years. But really motivated me and Michael was our parents. So for me, interestingly, given what's going on in the world, my father was an immigrant from Iran. He had a chance to go to medical school in Switzerland in the early 1950s. And my father was a huge believer in Dr. Mossadegh. And Mossadegh was overthrown by our CIA and the British because he nationalized the oil fields. He thought the Iranian people, it's a very core country, should benefit from that. So my dad made a difficult decision. He decided he didn't want to go back. And he raised me with this interesting perspective on our country. He said, Alan, this is the greatest country in the world because of our ideals. For someone like him, a young person from Iran, a developing country, the ideals of liberty, equality of opportunity, most of all justice, were a beacon for him. And he also said it was the one country he felt he could come to as a foreigner and become a citizen and pursue his dream of being a doctor and of giving back and raise a family. But he also taught me about Mossadegh. When I was 8 years old, he would say, Alan, let me tell you the history of my country. Let me tell you what happens when we overthrow dictators and we go against our ideals. When we put dictators back in power and we overthrow democracy. He taught me about Somoza in Nicaragua and Batista in Cuba and Marcos in the Philippines, and not supporting Mandela. And he said, you should love this country enough to fight for its ideals, because when we go against our ideals, it always haunts us. And so that was a big motivation for me. My mother was Italian. She was a nurse anesthetist. My mother was classic Italian. She loved everyone. If she were here, she would have hugged and kissed every single person in this audience by now. So Sandra's nodding her head. She knew her well. And my mother taught me the most important thing I've ever learned, which is that every single person has a special gift to give. And you bring that out by loving them. And so for me, doing City Year was basically take what my parents had taught me about, my dad about building democracy and giving young people a chance to be active student citizens, and for my mom, just spreading more love in the world. And Michael had similar background in terms of values. And that's what really motivated us to say, we should do this.
So let's fast forward a bunch of decades through all of your wonderful work around these kinds of issues and talk about this GI Bill-like thing that you're advancing.
Well, I think, this is where I take a little issue with you, Jim, is I don't think we need to force young people to serve. And people don't like being told. I mean, if you talk to Gen Z or Gen Alpha, I have a Gen Z daughter and a Gen Alpha son, they don't want to be forced to serve. They actually want to serve. But they want to be inspired, and they have to be incentivized. So, and we have a youth crisis in this country. I mean, the American dream doesn't exist anymore. We have a mental health crisis that the Academy of Pediatrics has said is a national emergency. Youth unemployment is almost 11%. So we as a country have failed our young people. So the idea is, how do we give young people a jump start on the American dream, a launch as they're entering adulthood? So the idea is basically this, is that if you want to do, for each year of service you do, you would get 2 years you get paid while you're doing the service. Then your post-service benefit, your Siegel Award, should be equivalent to 2 years of public higher education, which right now is about $11,400 here in Massachusetts. So if you were willing to serve for 2 years, you could basically serve your way to a higher education.
Where's the money come from to pay for
the
that?
estate tax. So I would put the estate tax back at 50%. I'd put the exemption at $10 million. You would raise $50 billion. That would be more than enough money to cover this. And the pitch would be to, Americans who have benefited the most from the American dream is, you can save half your money for your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-grandchildren. But the other half, we want you to invest in young people who are willing to serve so they can achieve the American dream. I would also change it to the GI Bill, where not everybody's going to go to college. That's okay. Young people are doing apprenticeships or going into great jobs with unions. And so we should let young people have that benefit, use it for post-higher education if they want, or it could be for a down payment on a home, or it could be to start a small business, or it could be to be a social entrepreneur. And what the GI Bill is one of the most successful social policies we've had. It built the middle class. For every dollar invested by the federal government in the GI Bill, it returned $8 to the economy. And we should do something like that today.
Do you have any high-profile takers on both sides of the aisle on the concept?
Not yet, but I think if we build more support for it, I think people should grab it. We're in a really challenging time. Small ideas don't work right now. We need transformational ideas. Social Security. We took care of our older people, thankfully, during the Depression, and everybody pays in, everybody benefits. Why don't we do something for our young people where everybody pays in by serving, and then they benefit and they actually get launched on the American dream?
I'm surprised you don't have more people backing this up, because it does seem like when you talk about this issue, you do get a lot of, Jim wrote his legendary piece, which everybody still talks about, in the Boston Globe, and, Doris Kearns Goodwin thought it was great, and Deval Patrick thought it was great.
By the way, Bob Putnam thought it was great, too. He just thought the time was not right for this, which is in part where you are. We'll get to that in a second. But go ahead.
Well, what do you mean the time is not right? You don't think that?
No, I think the time is right.
I do, too.
Where I take issue with you, Jim, is I don't think you have to force people.
Yeah, the mandatory part.
Yeah, I actually think that could backfire. I think people who are forced to do it will feel like, wait, why am I doing this?
So a carrot rather than stick.
Exactly.
But I would argue, and I think I did when we were talking on the phone about this, is that that those who are most likely to volunteer are likely those who least need to be exposed to people who are not like them, which is what I find to be one of the most appealing parts of service. And those who arguably need it most are the ones
like rich
that just,
kids that wouldn't need
maybe,
the money.
Yeah.
Well, I think here's the thing, though. We have to change our culture. Yeah. We have to make doing a year of service cool and honored. And so if you make it mandatory, we're not going to change the culture. In fact, there's going to be a whole bunch of the culture, especially young people, who say, no. If you say, we need universities to say, if you've done a year of service, we're going to give you preference in admissions. We need employers to say, which we've done with veterans, by the way, which is fantastic, that if you've done a year of service, we're going to put you in a different ahead in terms of interviewing. We need leaders in our society to say, we need you to serve. You're important. You're valuable. And we've seen with 30 plus years of AmeriCorps that it actually works. We just have to take it to scale.
Okay,
so but the culture change is what's needed.
Well, you also said to me that you thought scaling up from the level that we have now to, 4 million high school graduates a year is just too much. And that's a compelling point. However, before we hung up the phone, when I was writing this piece, you came up with an idea that I find really compelling, different from this GI Bill notion thing, that would be focused on the second semester of high school senior seniors. Fill in the blanks there a little bit there, Alan Khazei.
So as I mentioned, I have a Gen Z daughter, Gen Alpha son. So my daughter went to Brookline High School, and she applied to college. She got in. And she's a good student, so she didn't fall into, like, senior spring. But for a lot of her friends, as soon as they got those college acceptances, it was like partying. It was basically just don't fail out so you lose it. And that's basically wasted time. Now, for her friends who weren't
Hold on. Some people think that was the greatest couple of weeks of their life.
Like you.
Well, I remember how being excited. I mean, I really do think for a lot of kids, including my own kids, including kids I know, they can't wait till that point where they know what they're doing the next year and they can go to the beach and have a great few weeks.
It's called summer, Marjorie. How about summer? Can we hear the damn idea before you rip it to shreds?
The timing, I think, is troubling.
Well, and then for my daughter's friends who weren't going to college, they were just told, how do I get a job? So here's the idea. You take that senior spring and you make it a service semester. And you get young people to serve. Now, they're in high school, so you don't have to pay them. You do have to pay for people to help organize the service program, so that would be some cost, but not nearly what it would cost. And then they could get essentially an internship for those last 2 months or 3 months, where they get service experience, they get exposed to their community, they get a chance to be proximate. For the young people who aren't going to school, maybe that's a route to a job. For the ones that are, they're going to have a really powerful final experience. It's a capstone. And also you would say to them, okay, what ideas do you have for changing our communities once you've been in there? Because young people, I'll tell you, John Della Volpe has documented this. This generation
from the
Kennedy School, he's studied the young people more than anyone else. They want to have an impact. They want to make a difference. And you still have the summer.
Okay.
And by the way, that would be mandatory for second semester high school
I
seniors.
think that's, look,
How about 4 days a week and you had the 3-day weekend?
You want to go back to high school, don't you, Marjorie? I can tell you had a great time in high school.
I did.
Yeah.
She was co-captain of the cheerleaders.
Oh, yeah, that's
no
right.
More,
we had
okay?
a good time in high school.
We brought this up with we didn't know he was the outgoing Secretary of Education at the time, and he left a couple of weeks later, former Secretary Tutwiler. I love this idea, despite Marjorie's concerns. Are there people in the education infrastructure who are buying into this one, or is this too early a stage thought?
We're trying to popularize it.
I love it.
I think increasingly people are recognizing that we need to do something about our young people and the crisis they're in, and it could be mobilized. But it's hard to make change. There's people, the criticism I've heard is, what about AP classes? So there are people who take APs in the spring, and so my sense would be, okay, if you're on an AP track, fine, then you don't have to do full-time. You could do 20 hours a week and do your AP. But there's always somebody who says, well, this can't work. I think it's an idea that should be adopted. There are some schools that do it actually already.
They do?
Yeah. There's some schools. There's a school in New York. I'm spacing on the name now.
By the way, while you're thinking, you're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM. We're talking to Alan Khazei.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I just remember reading, not today, but before, that AmeriCorps, there's a way, a lot of people want to do AmeriCorps, where you go live somewhere and you get a stipend, and then you get this job for peanuts, but your living expenses spots available. So there is this.
AmeriCorps has been incredibly successful.
Yeah.
It really has worked. It's had over 1.3 million people have served through AmeriCorps. Billions of dollars in Siegel Awards for college have been awarded. There's been tremendous impact. Studies have been done that there's tremendous impact on communities. But there's a new idea that I've been proposing called Service Year Fellowships, which came out of this commission I was on.
For a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, which would basically be give a young person a fellowship equal to their stipend and their post-service award. Have any nonprofit that wants to be certified, and then they could go where they want to serve. So the agency goes with a young person, they get the choice, and that could scale. There are 2 million nonprofits. We could get service to 1 million people and then 4 million over time.
I hope you'll come back soon. I want to continue this. And let me just say, Marjorie, my younger daughter was in City Year out of high school, not out of college.
Yep.
Totally changed her life. The one thing we didn't have time for today, which we'll do next time, is not just what it does for the community and the culture and the society. What it does for the individual is
AmeriCorps kids.
Is life-changing.
Yeah.
It's
Loved
just
it.
incredible. How do people find out about any of this? Is there a website for some of your thoughts
you could go to cityyear.org.
Okay.
You could go to More Perfect. I've been working on this with a colleague, John Bridgeland, who actually ran service for George W. Bush.
Right. Moreperfect.what?
Moreperfect.org.
.org. Great. Alan Khazei, it's great to see you.
Great to see you both. Thank you for championing this idea.
Yeah,
Let's do it
thank
again.
you very, very much. We've been speaking with Alan Khazei, co-founder of City Air and founder of Be the Change Foundation, and those are some great ideas. Coming up after this quick break, Alex Green, author of A Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled. It is a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. We're going to talk about Mr. Fernald, the man none of us have really known anything about, at least I didn't, who is behind special ed and deinstitutionalization, and of course the Fernald School. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, 3 Wahlberg brothers, 3 burgers, 1 family showdown. Chef Paul Wahlberg talks about serving up some sibling rivalry. Plus a preview of the Vinfen Film Festival, where filmmakers tell stories about disability and mental health conditions that rarely reach the screen. And from Top Chef to High Street Place Food Hall, Tiffany Faison expands her flavor profile with Tigerbaby. That's on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Boston College, with its year-long in-person fellowship, Boston College Companions. Accomplished professionals can reflect together, explore new directions, and consider the next step on their journey. More at bc.edu/nextchapter. And Beacon Circle patrons Anne and Ralph Sheridan, who would like to honor Richard Silverman, a dedicated volunteer, a generous donor, and a friend to all at GBH.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browder were live at the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Joined now by Harvard lecturer and vice chair of the Massachusetts Commission on State Institutions, Alex Green. Alex has been with us a bunch of times advocating for better transparency around public records, in particular when it comes to the state's shameful history of mistreating people with physical and mental disabilities in state institutions. Like in the case of David Scott, whose brother John died as a teenager while living at Walter E. Fernald State School in Waltham. Here is David Scott in 2024 asking Governor Healey right here at the library on our show if she would issue an executive order to allow him to finally access records on his late brother.
Every time I try to gain access through his records, through Galvin's office, through anybody, they slam the door in my face. They tell me no. Those records were left in that school when they closed for all the vandals to get a hold about. The vandals know more about my brother than I do.
It doesn't make sense to me that we wouldn't make that available. Let's do this. Let's sit down and talk together offline with my team, David, and see what we can do.
Well, do something they did. Last November, the legislature finally did do something, passing a law that will make some 10 million records from state institutions for people with mental and physical conditions accessible for the first time. Not perfect, but a huge, huge and important step. One of the major reasons it happened is not just David Scott, but Alex Green. He is back to explain where it all began. He's the author of a really compelling book, A Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled. It's a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. The winners will be announced quite soon, March 26th. Congratulations, good luck, and it's great to see you again, Alex. Thanks for being here.
Congratulations on telling a fascinating tale. But before we get to the book, just update on what Jim said, the effort to get these records opened up that you've been so involved in for so long. Tell us.
It's been remarkable. I mean, I always teach. I teach public policy. I teach political communications, and I always teach my students that one part is getting a law passed, the other is getting it implemented, and the implemented part is hard, right? And so I think there are a lot of uneven steps rolling this out. But at brass tacks, I was able to walk into a vault at the State Archives that looked something like the end of the first Indiana Jones film, with like 5 stories high of boxes going row after row after row, and all of those are the stories of millions, hundreds of thousands of individuals who lived and died in 25 major state institutions in Massachusetts, and really that's the building of a system that is all over the world and was all over the world, and to be able to look at each and every one of their stories if the records are old enough to allow for that. And I think, some of it has demystified some of the process we talked about on the show, which is, the argument the state made for a lot of this was that patient privacy was why they could not open these up. And I have to say, it's been a hard read in that regard, because a lot of these files, I don't understand that argument at all anymore. I'm finding paintings, drawings in crayon, handwritten letters in cursive, by young people, young and old, people who lived and died in institutions, and hearing their voices as people. And so it has also raised large questions after the passage of why this was blocked off in the first place.
Well, congratulations. Again, I know it was a long fight, and you were leading this fight for years. I'm embarrassed to say, how many times in our lives have we mentioned the Fernald School
never
thought, who was this guy?
I just said that to Alex.
Same.
And it's incredible. So, why did all of a sudden you say, I got to find out who he was? Why did it matter to you?
I was in this strange position in 2014. Much of my work up to that point had been in negotiation, and my city asked me to help purchase the Fernald property from the state. And I had the keys to it suddenly. I was standing on a hill by Walter Fernald's house, looking across this massive place. I have mental illness. I've been institutionalized before, and I thought, but this doesn't look like an asylum. This doesn't look like is it a school? Is it a research? What is this place? And everyone I asked had a limit to the story they could tell me. They could tell me a little bit up to what they would call the bad old days, and nothing out beyond it. And I started saying, well, but who was Walter Fernald? And nobody could tell me who he was. And I thought every governor of Massachusetts, governors from all over the United States, people who became presidents have mentioned this guy's name, and yet nobody knew who he was. And I have to go figure that out.
Who was he?
He was a remarkable figure. He was known as the Montessori of America. He basically, if you have gone through special education or have a loved one who has been worked up for a disability before, unfortunately been called a slur, or heard something out there in the world around you about how we need to, unfortunately, breed better people, a lot of these ideas out there about genetic engineering or whatever else, it all goes back to this guy who was a physician and an educator, who ran this place called the Fernald School and turned it into the flagship institution for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities around the world.
What was it called before he took it over?
It was called the Massachusetts School for the Feeble-Minded.
And
you talk about how, unlike what I expected, at least at the beginning, how compassionate he was toward these children and how much he loved these children.
Deeply.
So he had a really good phase there for a while.
He did. He was trying to build a utopia, and I think so much of this book was an exercise in learning. It's almost like a moral fable about someone who says, I want to help people. And so the first third of this story really is of this idea, I'm going to get these disabled kids who are treated so badly out of the city, and I'm going to get them treated well, and I'm going to place them in a place where they get the education and support that they need. But of course, at some point that turns for him, and it flips very badly to become, I'm going to protect society from these disabled.
Let's stay on the good before we get to the eugenics part of his existence. How did he evolve from caring to creating what we know as special ed? What happened in there?
Yeah, I think, he was a great synthesizer of things. He loved seeing how children learn. As I tell in the book, there's a story that begins with getting kids to read Goldilocks and the Three Bears and ends with bringing a bear to class. And he's fascinated with how children learn, and this idea that disabled kids can learn a significant amount more than they are being given credit for. And so he's approached by this older educator in Rhode Island who says, look, we don't have an institution in Rhode Island, but we want to educate these kids. And I'm looking at these truant classes where we're told the kids are all delinquents, but a lot of them are just disabled. They need glasses, they have hearing issues, whatever else. What can we do to develop something for them in this district? And it is so successful what they develop that then Boston says we want to do it, then Springfield says we want to do it, then New York City says we want to do it. And up to today, this thing that begins in one classroom in Providence, Rhode Island, with him really saying, here is how you can take the curriculum from in my school and put it in a public school, becomes something that serves 7 million children today.
We're talking to Alex Green. His book is A Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald, and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled.
But then there was a turning point. I think it had to do with a drowning. Was that it?
It did. There was a murder within the school, and I think Fernald was disabled himself, as I discovered through this research. He was given to bouts of extreme depression. And he gets this really dark idea he won't let go of, which is that maybe when we see people do things that we think are bad, and back in the day they're thinking promiscuity or just basic delinquency, stealing things, whatever else, maybe that's actually a disability. Maybe that's the expression of someone's disability. And he coins this term that becomes very dangerous called defective delinquency. Maybe your personal defect is expressed as delinquency. And he's well poised as the kind of leader of this stuff in America to bring up a generation of people who are arriving at the moment that eugenics shows up. And that idea basically becomes the underpinning for Henry Goddard's notion of what's called the moron. And Henry Goddard brings the IQ test to America.
And explain eugenics.
Sure. Eugenics is very simply put is the idea that as human beings, we can intervene in the reproduction of other human beings to breed better people. It literally means well-born. And it's a very utopian idea that can go very, very sideways, very, very badly, as we saw in the 20th century.
And you talk about, I was just going to say, you talk about people still having ideas, positive ideas about eugenics. What do you mean?
I think people do it everywhere. I think it's in our common language. Part of this book is really to avoid the idea of saying that othering someone and saying they're the monster and I'm not. I think we all have eugenic ideas to some extent or another, and some of it is just the idea that genetic counseling or these sorts of things to intervene when your child is in utero is in its own way a form of eugenics.
Yep.
It is not always this monstrous thing, but I think where we see it, it's monstrous outer edges everywhere today, are things like the Epstein scandal or things like these transhumanist tech guys who want to create better human beings, but have never ever mentioned the word disability in their lives, right? And so there's this idea that we can intervene to build a better species that is very dangerous, very, very dangerous.
You're listening to Alex Green on BPR, on GBH, and NEPM. Was he self-aware enough? You said it beautifully a minute ago and in your book that he went from, and I'm not saying it as beautifully as you did, protecting kids with disabilities to protecting people from kids with disabilities. Was he self-aware enough to realize that he had done that 180?
I think that's what really makes him such an exceptional figure to study, and to learn about and to know about. He's rare in history for looking at his own work. When he's at his most monstrous, really, he's created and conjured this idea nationwide and globally called the menace of the feeble-minded. That everything we hear today about how disabled folks have these dangerous tendencies. And he stops and he's looking at the people around him who are calling for the sterilization of disabled people. And he says, these are my peers, but I'm vehemently against this idea. And if they're my peers, is something wrong with us? Have we made a mistake? And he does this remarkable thing of going and tracking down every person who fought against him and broke down the walls and got out of the institution against his advice and saying, how are you doing? And finds out they're all doing okay. And to his credit, doesn't shy away from that. He does panic and sit on those results for a little bit. And then he says, how do I start to tear this system down? And has this incredible about face in the latter years of his life, arguing against the very system that he built.
And so the deinstitutionalization that we began, I think was it during Dukakis that it began?
Largely during Dukakis,
is because of his influence.
He really seeds that idea 50 years before the rest of society gets there. He dies at the end of his life telling all of his peers and anyone who will listen that we need to refocus again, back to your point, Jim, about where are we focusing on disabled people, on the community. And he says, we've made a terrible mistake. You've all heard it in your own lives, which is people who talk about disabled people like ventriloquists, and they say, well, I know we don't need extreme things like big institutions, except this one person I've heard about. And he says, we all do that, and it's super dangerous to do because those aren't real disabled people. And what we need to refocus on is not whether or not disabled people are living up to our expectations, but whether or not communities are being good or bad to their disabled people. And the communities need to be held accountable and be better.
Alex, you're a fairly humble soul, and you no one's been more important in this movement here than you. Is this learning what you did about Fernald and all these years of research and writing, has it changed how you approach your work or think about your work in any way?
Everything. It's been deeply humanizing. It's been deeply traumatizing to go through all of this. This is horrible stuff to read about, and these are a lot of lives lost. But I listening to Alan Khazei before on the show is really hopeful for me. What I've always felt, and with the legislation or with this book or with these ideas, is that if we can start talking about a history we don't know, then it makes it easier to know that it was built and that it didn't just happen out of the blue and it's not something that just we were gifted from the ether. And that if we do that, it makes it easier to let go of the things we don't want to do anymore. And I think we have a lot when it comes to how we treat disabled people in this world that we have got to let go of. And at a moment where we're really going in the other direction, it's really important to know that it was built, to know who built it, and in this instance, to know that the very builder of it would support our dismantling of it, and a century later, if anything, I think would be disappointed in the fact that we've come not far enough.
One last thing for me. We talk a lot about people who are disabled or people with mental illness. We get a lot of text messages from people who will say they tried very hard to get help for their family member and they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
We're a long way from being able to help everyone who needs help.
We're going in the wrong directions, and I think what I'm calling for is not a vision of something that can be done solely in legislation. We are going to have to find ways to be communities that are better to our disabled people.
And what should we be doing?
Oh my goodness. I mean, just as a starting place, you have to know disabled people to be a good community for disabled people.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that the world that guys like Fernald built keeps you from seeing them all the time. In special education, all the way to out in public. Just look at these snowy streets the last few weeks and you won't see anybody disabled out because they can't get down the sidewalk. That little stuff adds up so much, and if you can be part of making that change to make community more welcoming and saying, where are the disabled folks in our community at anything you partake in, that is the beginning question to really start to force that change.
One last thing from me, which is where we started. You mentioned your experience looking through the archives. Are ordinary people like the wonderful David Scott, I remember he was sitting with his other son, what's their success? Have they found success in terms of learning about people they loved and didn't understand how they lived?
In droves. What's changed for me that's wild is I used to get all of the emails and requests from people because they could not navigate this system. And now when I'm at the state archives and I'm working on stuff, the archivists are consistently interrupted at every moment saying, I have to go take this call from someone who's looking for records on their loved one. I have to go get these records for someone. And that is the best thing you could possibly hope for.
Well, I tell you, congratulations. Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald, and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled is a finalist. We think you should win, of course, the National Book Critics Award, which is a big deal. Congratulations to you,
being
Alex
nominated
Green.
is a huge deal.
Yeah, the whole thing is a big deal. So, but you deserve it. You did a great job. Alex Green is the Harvard Lecturer and Vice Chair of the Massachusetts Commission on State Institutions. And let me give you the name of the book one more time, A Perfect Turmoil, Walter E. Fernald, and the Struggle to Care for America's Disabled. Thank you so much for coming in again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good luck.
Back.
We'll talk to you again soon.
I think you got another book in the archives.
It's on the way.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are saying goodbye to those of you listening on NEPM, but the show continues here in Boston. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to be joined by Senator Ed Markey. He's going to talk about the staggering cost of this war in Iran and when it might end and how it might end. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
If you made a recent contribution to GBH, your donation could be doubled by your employer through our Matching Gifts program. Find out if your donation can be matched at gbh.org/matchinggifts.
Funding for our programs comes from you And Revision Energy, a renewable energy company building and servicing solar, batteries, and air source heat pumps for local homes and businesses for over 20 years. Revision Energy. Revision your power. More at revisionenergy.com. And Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. I want to tell you 2 quick programming notes. Wednesday, March 25th at 11 here at the library. The Attorney General will be with us March 27th at 11, also here at the library. Governor Maura Healey. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. We're joined now on Zoom by Senator Ed Markey to discuss the many costs of war in Iran. Senator Markey, thanks so much for your time.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So you're a senator, after all. We're wondering, almost 2 weeks into this war, if you know more about the state of affairs than we do, because a lot of us are confused.
Well, you have every right to be confused, because just 1 week ago, I was allowed to be in a top secret briefing with the other senators, and Pete Hegseth and Marco Rubio briefed us for an hour and 15 minutes. We went in confused. We left even more confused in terms of what the war objectives were of the Trump administration. It was pretty clear they were making it up as they are going along, whether it be launching the war and not understanding the implications for oil prices, for evacuating Americans in that region, or the impact on the Straits of Hormuz, on all of the neighboring countries to Iran. None of it was in any way made clear to us what their plan was. And then in terms of what was the plan in order to end the war, they had nothing which they could offer up to us in order to ensure that we could have some communication with the American people about what the plan was. They do not have a plan.
You know, as Marjorie said, we don't get to go into those meetings that you do, Senator Markey, but I have to say, as a layperson, I think I speak for Marjorie, one gets a sense that they have no idea what they're doing, which is fine if it's some petty issue. It's not fine when there's a deadly, as Trump would call it, excursion like this. The New York Times writes this morning, his key advisors, including the Secretary of Energy, said to him there'll be no disruption in gas or oil. We learned that, his de facto Secretary of State, Witkoff, said, the Russians say they're not providing intelligence to Iran. Why shouldn't we believe them? Do they know, even if you don't like what they're doing, do they know what they're doing?
They don't know what they're doing. Obviously, Richard Nixon suffered from a dramatic increase in oil prices coming out of the Middle East. Gerald Ford suffered from that. So didn't Jimmy Carter. It had catastrophic impacts on each of their administrations. Then George Herbert Walker Bush did as well after that first Persian Gulf War. So this is just history repeating itself. But somehow or other, the Trump administration, his advisors, his energy advisors, did not understand that oil prices go up like a rocket when there is instability in the Middle East. And then they come down like a feather, very slowly, for months and months after that. And so what we are looking at right now is a dramatic spike in prices. We're seeing consumers at the pump seeing a 40 or 50 cent a gallon increase in just 10 days. And the consumers are paying in their taxes to fight the war. And then they're paying at the pump, and they're paying for their home heating oil, and they're paying for their natural gas bill with their home heating bills going up. 52% of Massachusetts residents use natural gas. They're paying for it in their higher electricity bills as well. So this is a tax on them in terms of the price that has to be paid for the war, and then again at home. It's like a double bill they're picking up.
By the way, to expand on that, Linda Blimes, who I'm sure you know, wrote a great piece in the Globe yesterday saying, while we're focused on it's $1 billion or $2 billion a day for munitions, this could be yet another multi-trillion-dollar war when one takes into account all the downstream costs. Senator, you may not know this. As we're speaking, the Washington Post is out with exclusive reporting that the Secretary of War, as he calls himself, has banned photojournalists from the briefing room at the Pentagon because the images of him that have been published are, quote, unflattering. So, I mean, what do you say to that?
What I say is that, well, last Thursday we celebrated Kristi Noem Gets Fired Day. And I think we could be another 4 or 5 weeks from celebrating Pete Hegseth Gets Fired Day as well, because he is completely unqualified for this position. He takes any criticism very personally. He's very confrontational with senators, even in private briefings. I was shocked at his reaction to pointed questions, but questions that need to be asked and answered by the administration, by Democrat and Republican senators, by the way. So he is absolutely unqualified for this position, but so isn't Tulsi Gabbard, so isn't Kristi Noem, so isn't the head of the World Wrestling Federation, Linda McMahon, running the Department of Education.
You left out Donald Trump. We're talking to Senator Ed Markey.
Senator, you and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you're the new Green New Deal. You're the Green New Deal people. I wonder, we thought maybe after Russia attacked Ukraine, there might be some renewal of enthusiasm about clean energy. And some people are hypothesizing that maybe there might be more of it now. Or what do you think?
Well, as Trump was declaring war on Venezuela, an oil-producing country, war on Iran, oil-producing country, he simultaneously was declaring war on Massachusetts and our energy producing, blocking our offshore wind production so that we could add 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts of offshore wind that would provide us guaranteed low-priced electricity for a generation. And he's doing that on behalf of the natural gas and oil industry as well. Just absolutely unconscionable. So from the perspective of this administration, it's oil above all. It's a consistent plan, which they are landing. But the price is being paid, again, by consumers. They are the ones who ultimately are going to have to pick up this tab. And renewables are a Death Star aimed at the natural gas industry, aimed at the oil industry. And as we remember, in April of 2024, Trump said to the oil and gas industry, if you raise me $1 billion, I will kill all renewables. And he said that to Harold Hamm. And Harold Hamm, the natural gas guy, he said, I'll go out and do it. Well, Senator Mullen right now from Oklahoma is being considered as the new Secretary of Homeland Security. You know who's being considered to be the new senator from Oklahoma? Harold Hamm, the oil and gas guy.
Oh, my goodness. So it's
all part of one big story.
You better not criticize Senator Mullen. He may challenge you to a cage match, Senator. You got to be... before you go, Senator, we really appreciate your time. One of the many things that concerns me is your colleagues in leadership have totally forsaken their responsibility as members of Congress. I'm not talking about disagreeing with an outcome. I'm talking about doing nothing to exercise their constitutional authority, whether it's around war, whether it's around tariffs and taxes, whether it's around oversight, Epstein in particular. You've been there quite a while. Do you worry that this abdication of responsibility will get baked into Congress, and we're going to see more of this even in a post-Trump world?
Yeah, obviously, the Republican senators have allowed themselves to be put in a witness protection program. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. They look like the same senators. They still went to Duke and Harvard and Penn and Stanford, but all of a sudden, they don't understand tariffs. They don't understand war. They don't understand energy prices. They don't understand anything because they don't want to have happen to them what happened to Senator Tillis, which is yet another movie, Godfather Part 1. He gave Tillis an offer he couldn't refuse, and Tillis refused it by voting against the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid and renewable energy last year, and he could not run for re-election. That is what they are afraid of. So this is now a party that is completely controlled by the MAGA base, and we have to make sure that we make them accountable this fall. The consumers are going to be coming with pitchforks for these Republican House and Senate members in less than 8 months. Rising healthcare costs, gasoline prices, natural gas prices, home heating oil prices, grocery prices. That is the kitchen table discussion that's going on right now. And Republicans have allowed themselves to just vote with Donald Trump without any regard to the fact that they are the ones who are going to pay the bill with their seats this November.
Senator Markey, we really appreciate your time and thoughts. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for being with us, Senator.
Thank you.
We have been speaking with Senator Ed Markey, of course, from Massachusetts. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to speak with national security expert Juliette Kayyem on the role of artificial intelligence in Iran and the attack outside the home of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, smoky haze from Canadian wildfires has become a common part of our summers. Inside those raging fires, the conditions are so extreme, they create their own weather, evaporating any moisture in the air and spewing embers for miles. What we're learning in an intense new era of fire behavior. That's the Curiosity Desk today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And the Chevalier Theatre, presenting Dancing with the Celts, coming to Medford on March 13th. The Celts combine the sound of Ireland and Nashville and are accompanied by Irish step dancers. Ticket info at chevaliertheatre.com. And Babson College, where students can learn to lead with impact and become a driving force for change. Babson's graduate virtual open house is on March 18th. Registration at babson.edu/gradopenhouse.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browder, live from the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Joined now at the library desk by national security expert Juliette Kayyem. Juliette's former assistant secretary for Homeland Security under President Obama, faculty chair of the Homeland Security program at Harvard's Kennedy School of Government, CNN senior national security analyst. Hi, Juliette.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Juliette, great to see you.
Volume. Yeah, hi.
So tell us about artificial intelligence in this war. It has been a big feature.
Yeah, I mean, as we were sitting here, we got the alert that the U.S. is fessing up to what we already know that was likely true, or sort of admitting that we were responsible for the bombing of that school.
They're officially, I didn't know that. They're officially saying
they're
that?
officially
Okay.
saying it. That I mean, it was impossible to deny at this stage. I mean, just simply because of we are the only people who had the right weaponry. So, my understanding, or just what people are reporting now, if you just unwind it, is that essentially Hegseth and the Pentagon sort of focus on using AI for strike information. AI is as smart as the information you feed it. So it's building off of what the Defense Department thought was valid mapping. That mapping showed a factory, maybe a munitions factory from before, or some sort of training facility, and did not upgrade it. And so in the 10 years, since then, it had become a school, which happens in a country like that, where the state moves out of a building and then gives it to another public function. So this is a great example, and then we'll talk about Anthropic, but this is a great example about why what we call MHC in safety and security.
What is that?
Meaningful human contact. That if you're making decisions of life and death, you want to put a man in what's called in the military man in the middle. It could be a woman, but you don't want to feed the algorithm information that isn't validated by, say, a covert operative from Israel, or even us that would say, look, I was just in Tehran making an assessment, and that there seemed to be a lot of school kids there. We're making these decisions based on information that's it's only as good as the information you put it in. So I don't have much faith in this Pentagon that is very much pushing the speed and the adaptability of a certain kind of AI to, as we know, as Hegseth has said, to make two important decisions. One is obviously get information about individuals, including Americans, which Anthropic, which is in a fight with the Pentagon, is pushing back on. And the second is kill orders that Anthropic did not want to be involved with. One of the companies that is balking and now suing the Pentagon did not want to be involved with essentially kill strike.
Yes, and mass surveillance of American citizens.
Those were the two.
The Trump administration is trying to just shut them down and ruin their entire business. Right.
So they have, the executive order was crazily written. So basically taking you back 2 weeks right before the war. And actually, in hindsight, I actually wonder if those things were related. They went to war, the Pentagon, so to speak, went to war with Anthropic the Friday, I think, before they gave them a Friday deadline. Yes, the timing is right. And then they started bombing in Iran that weekend. Said, we want access, we want to be able to use your platform for these two purposes, for information, privacy information, as well as kill strikes. Anthropic, and if you don't follow, we're going to make this life very difficult for you. Anthropic said, we're not following. And then the executive order said the Pentagon wasn't going to do any more business with Anthropic, but like any subcontractor to the Pentagon couldn't do it, which would have killed the business. But look, the Pentagon had become very, very dependent on Anthropic. And so one of the reasons why people looking back say, I heard someone say yesterday, when did I know the Iran war was going to start? Was the Anthropic fight, was because the Pentagon was so dependent on its information.
But they are using Anthropic in Iran.
Yeah.
It's going forward that they don't want to use Anthropic.
Yeah, exactly. So and now Anthropic is suing them on a variety of constitutional and statutory claims.
They have a very good
suing
case.
The Pentagon. What?
They have a very good case, according to legal experts.
Well, because if the president tweets out, I don't like Anthropic because it's not letting me kill people.
I want to go back to this girls' schools thing. I assume everybody remembers Trump saying the other day that I believe it was Iran, even though, as Juliette said, the Tomahawk missiles did the damage. Iran doesn't have them. Israel doesn't have them. Can you look up the name of the reporter? I should credit him. A reporter yesterday asked Trump, why are you the only person in your administration who speculated that Iran is responsible for bombing this girl's school? Here's the end of the reporter's question and Trump's incredible answer. Here it is.
Why are you the only person saying this?
Because I just don't know enough about it. I think it's something that I was told is under investigation. But tomahawks are used by others, as you know. Numerous other nations have tomahawks. They buy them from us. But I will certainly, whatever the report shows, I'm willing to live with that report.
And by the way, just to be clear, Julia touched on it, he totally lied about. There are apparently 4 nations that have tomahawks. Neither, as I said, are Iran or Israel.
I also want to just point out how easy, reporters should feel emboldened by that, how easy it is.
This guy.
Yeah, because all you
you
have to do is say, why are you standing alone in this assessment, and let him dribble. So what you're seeing is he's starting to throw a bunch of people under the bus, and I heard Markey say he doesn't know if Hegseth survives this. I wonder that too now, because he needs, he can't fire Jared because Jared's not employed. Jared Kushner and Witkoff are clearly responsible for why the war started.
Witkoff, the guy who says he believes what Vladimir
the Russians,
Putin
but Witkoff, they're
him.
getting nervous. Witkoff was on air yesterday, and they were asked, and he was asked, how does this end? And Witkoff, who wanted the war, right, says I don't know, and he said he didn't know how it ended. But it just shows, like, if you just push them on facts, he falls apart, right? Like, the Trump doesn't know, why this start, and the question on why did this start, his answer the other night was, well, Jared and Pete and they all told me that this is what we should do. One of them is going.
His son-in-law.
Yeah.
His son-in-law, who has zero credentials.
No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that. His son-in-law is a proxy for Israel. I mean, it's not, I don't know. There's nothing bad about saying that. It's just his son has an interest in Israel and represents what Israel wants to the president. It would be good if we had people in the room who were representing the United States interests. There's nothing wrong about saying that. Jared has said that. He's got an invested interest in it. And now the irony is we don't know if a lot of his business dealings will become unwound because the Gulf sovereign funds, which are funding a lot of Jared Kushner's lifestyle right now, are reassessing some of their commitment because we've abandoned the Gulf.
By the way, the New York Times reporter who asked that question was Sean McCreesh.
Yeah.
And good for him. I want to get back to the end of this war. Every prediction I've ever made, I admit, is wrong. And I really mean that with not false humility. However, I am so convinced after listening to, what's her name, the press secretary yesterday.
Karen
Levitt say unconditional surrender means, it doesn't mean unconditional surrender anymore. It means they can't do the things we don't want them to be able to do. It's obvious to me in a day or two, if the stock market continues to crater and gas prices continue to go up, he'll have a meeting and say, how do I define unconditional surrender? And it'll be over. Yeah. I mean, isn't that obviously how this is going to end?
Absolutely. I mean, this was, the skeptics at the beginning. I don't get impressed. That the military can drop bombs is not impressive, and shame on all of the media for just focusing on, oh, look, the military, that's their job. They should be able to drop bombs. There was no strategy for how you define success. So you would get all these military analysts on all the networks, on every show saying, well, this is so fascinating. We can drop bombs. You're like, what's the mission? What's the purpose? Everyone knew that Iran had, and I said this the first day I was on after the war, everyone knew Iran had a different strategy this time because they had to build deterrence into that strategy. That is what's going on now. You will not do this again. So if you want to know why are they not coming to the table, because they are not convinced until the White House shuts up, they are not convinced we're not going to do it again. And I think, and I look forward to the day when the White House finally does it. I'm not defending Iran, but the idea that we do not put ourselves in the enemy's shoes, and we can debate another time whether it was an imminent enemy, but it wasn't, in the enemy's shoes, and say, okay, what's going to be their strategy? Because that should then modify what our strategy is. That is what military planning is. That's what national security planning is. No one did that because they thought, well, we're just going to kill the head and there'll be flowers in the street. They have surrounded an unlikely next leader, right? They never were going to turn to the Khomeini son. More conservative. We've killed his father. We killed his wife. I think we killed one, or if not two, of his kids. More conservative. More aligned with his mother too. Yeah, his mother too. More aligned with the intelligence agencies than any reform advocate was. And we're locked in for the next 40 years. We're locked in, and the only thing he has Only thing he's focused on is deterrence. This will not happen again. And how do you get deterrence? You make it hurt, and it's hurting in prices.
So, Juliette, you wrote a piece in The Atlantic that
Yeah.
challenges conventional wisdom on what happened in New York City. Well, first of all, why don't you describe what happened in New York City? And the police commissioner's position is these are ISIS-related events, and you challenge that thesis. But first, tell us what happened for those who missed it.
So there's, as everyone knows, the new mayor of New York is Muslim. He's had a lot of anti-Islam and lots of people challenging his commitment to all New Yorkers, and it's gotten very ugly. He's been accused of anti-Semitism, and he has just led with all of that as background noise. On the weekend, a former January 6th insurrectionist, terrorist, who had been pardoned, who has launched a sort of anti-Islam rally. He had maybe a dozen people there, 18 people in front of Gracie Mansion. There's a counter rally of about 100 people. It gets kind of hostile. There was, I think, one arrest. And then two Muslim teenagers, 18 and 19, I believe, or 17 and 18, who have driven over from Pennsylvania, no record, with very sophisticated weaponry, throw one into the crowd. That one, fortunately, doesn't explode. The NYPD were fantastic in stopping.
You see the picture of that cop
that guy,
coming over the railing?
Stopping it. And this picture that those of you watching on YouTube,
yeah,
can see.
that picture right there.
Yeah,
Isn't
it is
that
a
incredible?
great picture.
Diving right toward the incendiary device, not even knowing if it was going to explode in his face.
And people would have died. So I want to be clear that my column, and I was on the NewsHour, is not that this was safe or that this was a nothing attack. If it had been successful, it would have been very serious. What I challenge, or what I want people to understand, is that when people self-identify as being radicalized by ISIS, it's giving them, and us narrating it in that way, it's giving ISIS the very power that they really don't have to direct any of these things. And so it's just sort of a catch-22 for our counterterrorism efforts, which is, these guys are, probably part of the same pool of a lot of the right-wings terrorists and the right-wing folks who are getting radicalized online. They're online, they're lonely, they're looking for meaning, they like violence, whatever. They then adapt a persona that's bigger than theirs. In this case, these guys, ISIS. ISIS has no idea who they are. They're not directed to do this. And then they do it. It's a very challenging part of counterterrorism right now, because you're doing, by reinforcing that narrative, right, which is almost you have to do because that's what they said, you are also giving the terrorist groups more oxygen than they likely have right now. But I want to be...
That guy's name is New York Police Department Chief Aaron Edwards. Aaron Edwards is his name. We just have a minute left in this, but putting aside your thesis on this about the lack of a formal connection, people who do what you do say this is what Iran would like to have happen. And we only have a minute left, but should that be a great concern right now?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I said last night is, look, we can worry about these guys from Pennsylvania, whatever. I am very worried about state-sponsored terrorism, period. I mean, it is because terrorism has been a tool of the Iranian regime for a long time. Called Hezbollah, right? They have supported terrorism as a tool of their foreign policy objectives. The idea that they are going to walk away and say, never mind, is ridiculous. This will be part of the strategy as a state-sponsored terrorism. You're not getting rid of me yet.
No, we are. So let me explain to you what's going on. If people are watching, Marjorie, for undisclosed reasons, is leaving. I know it's odd. The show is not over. Her pay will be docked. However, in her stead, Juliette is going to switch positions.
Switch! Are you ready?
She is going to become Marjorie. Bye, Marjorie. You want to everybody say goodbye to Marjorie, please? I know you're all going to miss her. Thank you. That was rather tepid, by the way. Marjorie is leaving. Let's hear it for Marjorie. Thank you. That's still tepid. In any case, she is leaving. Juliette becomes Marjorie, and we're going to open the lines to go from the sublime to not quite the ridiculous, but we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on popcorn. At the movies, at home, with butter, M&Ms melting in between the kernels. How do you prefer it? And obviously we're doing this because Sunday is Oscar night in America. I'm Jim Browdy. She is Marjorie Egan. She's leaving. Juliette Kayyem is not. You're listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH, live from the library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Falling catches.
The haddock has all disappeared. The fluke has all disappeared.
A city in crisis.
New Bedford has always put all its economic eggs in a single basket, only to see each industry collapse.
And one man who saw an opportunity.
Every time it's a crisis, that's when you make a lot of money.
I'm Ian Koss, host of the Big Dig podcast, here to tell you about our new season, Catching the Codfather, a story about the rise and fall of a fishing empire. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering over 90 short courses that pair MIT research with hands-on frameworks designed to be applied immediately at work. More at executive.mit.edu. And Beacon Circle patrons Anne and Ralph Sheridan, who would like to honor Richard Silverman, a dedicated volunteer, a generous donor, and a friend to all at GBH.
Welcome back to BPR and 89.7 GBH. Juliette Kayyem and Jim Brown. Hi, Juliette. Nice to have you stay. Marjorie is off doing something, whatever. Something live from the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Attorney General joins us on the 25th at the library at 11 for an hour of Ask the AG. Governor does the same thing for Ask the Governor 2 days later, Friday, March 27th at 11 at the library. We needed to lighten it up because it's a pretty heavy show. As the Washington Post food writer Emily Heil writes, movies and popcorn are like Barbie and Ken. Or perhaps more fitting for this Oscar season, they're like Will Shakespeare and his witchy wife Anne Hathaway, which is to say they're aligned spiritually. We're opening the lines to end the show today to talk with you about your popcorn preferences just days before the Oscars. We all know Marjorie, and this is true, only consumes popcorn that has equal amounts of real butter, real being the key word. What about you? Do you do the microwave thing for convenience? Do you make it from scratch? What are your preferred toppings? All popcorn preferences are welcome, but I can't guarantee we won't ridicule you if you say you're a Cracker Jack diehard. 877-301-897. I eat a huge amount of microwave popcorn. What's your popcorn deal, Juliette?
A microwave, kettle corn. I have strong opinions. At home.
Kettle corn is unimaginably horrible.
Oh my God.
This combination of sweet and salty.
I step in for your co-host, cover for her, and the first thing you say is, it's good. But I have to just say, there's different popcorns for movie and at home.
What is that?
So movie is...
real butter. You got to do
real butter, but not like light, and then... chocolate peanut M&Ms poured in it, and then you rip, and then you shake it all up, and then when you're in the dark and you're eating, you get this like piece of chocolate.
Look how Hannah's looking at you, by the way.
They're all liking it, right?
Utter incredulity.
Yeah.
No, I don't think.
I mean, this is the way you put chocolate. It's so good. But kettle corn is it. And thank you for reminding me that the Oscars are on Sunday.
Sunday night they are. In fact, and Odie Henderson's going to be with us tomorrow, for the movie critic for the Boston Globe, to talk about all the nominees. First of all, we were talking this morning. I think Hannah falls in this category too. Zoe told us she makes real popcorn in oil in a wok. Now, that is like old school kind of beautiful.
Yeah, but that's like kind of showing off.
Are you old enough to remember? I don't even know if they have
those machines.
No, forget the machines. I had an air popper too. When I was younger, which obviously whatever, used to buy this thing with a flat top, a little aluminum pan. You put it on the stove and you shake it, and the thing becomes a big aluminum bowl. Is that what it's called?
I love that you think that I wasn't old enough for that. Now you're my favorite person. I think that was around in the 70s and 80s, but Jiffy Pop is incredible. But for Sunday night, it will be kettle popcorn and Twizzlers. I'll go to the...
Twizzlers not a bad... Wait, not Twizzlers in the thing.
No, on the side. Yeah, no, the whole thing is... Because I grew up in L.A., if I don't mention that every other week. I grew up in L.A., so like the Academy Awards is like, you know, it is your national holiday. And I'll start, just given the timing, I'll start at about, 4 p.m. on
Red
Sunday.
carpet?
Oh, totally.
E-Network.
I know, and you know what's nice is like my whole family makes fun of me about it, and now the only nice thing about the kids not living in the house anymore is I can just watch and
That's a beautiful thing.
only be mocked by one person.
Listen
oh,
to
look,
this.
we have people with opinions.
Well, before we get to them, we have one person with an opinion who works with us, Zoe. Not only does she do her popcorn from scratch in a wok with oil, I put nutritional yeast on my
Okay, what
popcorn.
is that about?
Does anybody in the audience put nutritional yeast on their popcorn? I would say no is the answer to that question. I don't know what it is.
What is
Ask her.
Oh, it's a cheesy seasoning without the dairy. Can you read? Do you read the?
Unfortunately, I am reading it.
Yeah,
yes.
that sounds. Why life is hard.
It is very hard.
And
it's a very
why
deep
would
point
you
you're
make
making.
life harder?
Okay, let's take some calls.
By making your own popcorn.
Isaac in Providence, we're talking about popcorn preferences to break the pain thing that we're living through and to preview the Oscars. Hi, Isaac. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, long-time listener. First time I got through.
That is fabulous
Excellent.
news.
Hi, Isaac.
What's up?
Listen, there is only one way to have popcorn is using the whirly pop.
I don't know what it is.
That's the air thing, right?
Yeah, it's aluminum. You put it in this little bucket, and you manually turn the crank, and the lever turns the kernels, and you can throw in butter, oil, whatever you want. But I will tell you, it completely changes the way you think about popcorn because you no longer do that microwave stuff anymore.
Does it taste? By the way, can we put that picture up? Because I know what that is.
I never knew that was what it was for.
Whirly pop. You'll recognize it if you see it in a second.
Yeah, we got a picture of it. Again, why make life harder?
Isaac, does it taste different from?
Absolutely.
How so? I know it's hard to describe taste. How is it different?
So depending upon, I'm not going to talk about the yeast thing, although I have done that before.
Please don't.
I will say that if you add a lot of oil, like good oil, it actually makes the popcorn crispier, and it has a whole different texture to it than if you just throw in butter or other things. It does change your texture and your flavor. And we only buy the organic kernels, and I'll tell you, it changes the game.
Okay.
Now, Isaac, before you go, are you embarrassed that your first phone call ever to get through is about popcorn?
I'll tell you, the first call was like 2 years ago, trying to talk to Marjorie about some decision about it was some silly thing. And I was like, I'm glad that wasn't my first call.
Isaac, call us again. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Do you have the text in front of you? This is a good one. Anonymous texter, I cook it in bacon grease. Oh, my God.
You guys, you people, first of all, I had no idea we had these options, but another anonymous texter may have changed my life, which is not only does Jiffy Pop still exist, but they have it in kettle corn form, too.
I just don't
I
eat
know.
kettle corn.
What, too sweet?
I don't like the combination of sweet and I'm not a salt and sweet guy. Sweets, I'm not a big sweet person anyway, but combining it just doesn't do it for me. And can I tell you one of the worst experiences I've ever had since you didn't ask? When I was younger, I don't think I've had 5 glasses of milk in my whole life.
Yeah.
And one day I was supposed to have milk for something, and I wasn't looking, and I started drinking it, and it was orange juice. So when you don't expect a taste and you get it, how horrible that experience. That's a horrible story. But here's my point. I have occasionally bought popcorn, put it in the microwave, been just counting the seconds, opening the damn thing, eating it, and when it's kettle corn and you don't expect it to be,
it's really hard.
It's jarring and really painful. No,
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I have that experience with cherry.
Well, I know you don't care. It was a bad story, but it meant something to me. Thank you for saying that.
I have that experience with cherry Diet Coke. Because sometimes I'll pick that up from the 7-Eleven near us.
Not
the store around the corner from you. And
we live near each other.
Yeah, there's this liquor store that has like random things in it, and I feel that. I feel that deep sadness that you do.
How about cooking in salami grease? The greasy shine, mortadella grease, not good enough. Here's a really good one though, and I'm buying into this. Anonymous texter, you have to use real popcorn, coconut oil to pop it, and only the best butter there is. Curry Gold Irish butter melted over it.
Wow.
Sprinkle with salt and pepper. That is a beautiful experience right there.
People take a lot of care into their popcorn.
It's very nice.
I'm learning something new. Now, so do people actually watch the Academy Awards in this, if you're making
Yes. It's a local boy, too, a Brookline boy, Conan O'Brien.
I know, but he is?
Yeah, he's hosting again.
Oh, he's so good.
He's great.
He's really is.
Great. Yeah,
I
he's
like
really
him.
good. Let's you take a call. Do you know how to take a call?
Caroline in Marlboro.
Excellent. Nice job. Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello. Hi, how are you guys?
We're good.
We're
thank
good.
Okay, first of all, it starts with a stock pot that has been seasoned and not washed for about 18 years. Ready? Then you use coconut oil if you have it. I used to work in a movie theater. All the movie theaters use coconut oil.
Huh.
Amish kernels, they're purple. You have to send away from them. They have fewer hulls.
Okay.
Pieces that get stuck in your teeth. And then after that, you put it in a brown paper bag, salt, and this is where Jim is not going to like this.
What is it?
Nutritional yeast. Give it a shake.
What's with
and
the
I think
yeast?
that's very much like...
I'm going to try this.
You should. You should.
Okay.
Really should. It's an acquired taste. My wife hates it. She won't. I grew up eating it, though. I think it's like a New Hampshire, Vermont thing.
Does the nutritional yeast change the taste of the thing, or it's just like a nutrition thing?
Absolutely.
It is.
It is a very particular taste. Yeah. It's I think a lot of people who are vegan use it as a cheese substitute, so it has that unctuous, almost cheesy umami kind of thing going on. But you should try it.
Before you go away, I assume the answer to this is yes, which is quite beautiful. If it is, do the purple kernels become purple popcorn? Obviously,
they don't. They're they're really bright. They're bright white, and if you do see holes,
I don't know. Once again.
Black.
So, when you're doing this, do you miss the whole movie? How long does this take you? Are you going to watch the Academy Awards?
I'm definitely going to watch the Academy Awards.
I have to ask
this. Part of the evening.
I know, but do you are you this selective about your movies as you are about popcorn? What's your first choice?
Absolutely.
For the movies?
Carolyn, that was a great call. So go ahead.
Thanks, guys. This wasn't my first time calling, but I'm glad that my first time was.
Well, good luck to you on Sunday night. I hope you make it to the TV in time because that's a lot of effort.
Here's a clip from Curb Your Weight.
What's so wrong with 2.5 minutes at the microwave? Nothing's wrong with that.
Well, except some people say it'll taste a lot better if you do it the real deal. No. Here's a Curb Your Enthusiasm clip where Larry does not want his friend's wife holding his popcorn. Here it is.
I'm using the bathroom before the movie. Okay. I'll see you inside. Yep.
I'll hold your popcorn.
Not necessary.
No, it's no problem. You want me to go to the bathroom? I'll hold your popcorn for you.
No, I'll just take it into the bathroom. It's fine.
You're going to take your popcorn into the bathroom? That's disgusting.
No. I hold on to it. I munch and pee.
No, you can't. That's not good for you.
Munch and pee? No, I like to munch and pee. Really? It's fine.
Why don't you want me to hold the popcorn? Because obviously there's a problem with
holding
the
problem.
No, there's a little bit of a problem.
It's my popcorn. It's not necessary.
You don't want me to hold the popcorn, right? Because what? You think I'm going to eat your popcorn?
Munch and pee. That's really an appetizing concept, isn't it? 877-301-8970. 8970.
Do you have a favorite movie for Sunday night, by the way?
I am in the midst. I'm about halfway through Sinners, and I have to say, while it's really hard to watch, it is. I've seen maybe 2 or 3 of the movies, so I shouldn't speak, but I will anyway. It's spectacular. It's really hard to watch.
That's my Friday night because I have 2 more movies I got to see for the best of. I've got to see Sinners, and I read Hamnet. I have not seen the movie.
Are there 10 nominees for best movie?
Yeah, I think I'm good just for over the course of the year.
That's impressive.
I am still with, and I just saw it because who can commit 3 hours for a movie? And I was, I'm very hostile about, as people can tell by my popcorn choices, I'm very hostile about demanding too much time of people. And I always think why does any movie have to be over 2 hours?
I'm with you, by the way.
But one battle after another.
Really?
Oh my God. I was like, I'll watch half tonight, half tomorrow night. I was like, we're watching all of it tonight. It was so good.
By the way, if you were listening earlier in the show, I don't know who came up with this YouTube poll. Who did it? Nicole, of course, our colleague. We asked if there's a good popcorn in Chelmsford. Chelmsford came up at the top of the show. The majority in the poll on YouTube, 63% said what's Chelmsford.
That's good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 877-301-8970. We're talking popcorn choices.
We've got a texter who's going to make, if Sunday night won't be fun, Monday night will be brutal. The best way to watch the Oscars is eating space poppers, cannabis-infused popcorn, and changing the channel.
Wow.
Really? You could? Yeah, I guess you could buy that. Of course you can. Yeah. I know nothing of such things.
Let's go to Jim in Gloucester. You're next. You're on with Juliette Kayyem and me, Jim Browdy. Welcome to the show. Hi there.
Hi there, Jim Browdy. How are you?
I'm good.
Julia.
Juliette's good too, yeah.
It's my first time calling, but I've talked to you before on the street.
Thank you.
In any case,
on the street?
Popcorn, on the street. I think I saw you at the Shaw's in Brighton on Western Avenue one day.
Oh, that's where I have my best conversations, actually. Go ahead.
Only.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, you were a friend of Ed Kelly's, and you dedicated the square to him.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's right.
Ed Kelly, one of my late, great friends. I'm really glad you brought him up, and we did dedicate a square to him in Cambridge. What's up, Jim?
Wow. Well, calling about popcorn. I make popcorn for crows in my backyard. They love it, and they come back. I call them, and they come, and they eat it. And we also make it for ourselves. We have an electric popper that pops very well, and we get the cheap popcorn. But the additive, what I like to put on it is a little bit of butter in a little frying pan, a little bit of olive oil to make it healthy, put some garlic powder on there, a little salt, some Italian seasoning, pour that over. That's our favorite way.
That's called garlic bread.
My wife is right here.
That's how I make my garlic bread.
I've never heard of garlic powder on popcorn.
Yeah,
I might be able to do that. Wow.
It's better than sugar, boy. Oh, my God.
I'm
can't put sugar on popcorn.
I'm going to think about that. Jim, thank you for your suggestion. We appreciate your call. 877-301-8970. When do you have time? You're relatively busy soul. When do you have time to watch 8 of the 10 movies?
I'm a multitasker. What I do relax in front of the TV. I tell my mother, turn off you don't watch news 24/7. It's not healthy for you. So I do watch lots and lots of shows. And then I watch TV sometimes, like if I'm on an elliptical or something. So I'll catch up on movies that way.
You know what I just realized we didn't prepare for? We'll get back to your calls in a second at 877-301-8970. What's the genesis of, just as the writer said, popcorn and movies are like Barbie and Ken.
What is that?
Where did the connection...
Yeah.
Can you do a quick look?
Because it definitely wasn't home, right? Because you couldn't see movies at home, right? So you figure when the movie theaters opened, they wanted something hot. I don't know.
So do you know, since
also,
you're a Cambridge kid, do you know Melissa Ludke?
Yeah.
Melissa Ludke is one of the greats. Great writer, broke barriers for women, sports coverage. You all know this. She just texted us, Jim, break the microwave popcorn habit now.
Oh, really?
These popcorn bags, I think she's talking to you too.
She is talking
to me. These popcorn bags are
horrified.
lined with PFAS, those forever chemicals, and heating them is horrible to do.
I know.
Stop now. Really? And then she says, look it up.
Melissa, I know.
She's a pretty smart woman, by the way.
She is. Now that's going to be in the back of my head all Sunday night as I'm at the microwave.
Do you want to read this according to CNN? Read
Here
it.
we go. Real news you can use. According to CNN, popcorn became the quintessential movie snack during the Great Depression because it was an affordable, accessible luxury. What is that? A nickel to a dime a bag that helped theaters survive financially. Its popularity soared due to its enticing aroma, ease of production, and high profit margins for theaters. That's for sure. And now it's back.
You know what's interesting? By the way, the smell, I hadn't thought of that in a theater kind of thing.
So great.
It's almost like going into a coffee shop and smelling the aroma, the grinding of the beans. Yeah. It's got to have a butter component. When you smell that butter,
I know.
When you walk into a theater.
Do you still go to movie theaters?
Well, no, I don't go much. I went actually to see something at the Lowe's Boston Common a month or two ago, which I, of course, forget because I felt it was a movie I had to see on a big screen. I forget what it was. But Margie and I have done shows, and I wish we had been prepared for this. There is a list of theaters that have real
popcorn?
Real butter. And one of them, at least, used to be the Kendall. And the only problem with the Kendall, as Marjorie has said more than once, is she believes you have to wear a beret to go to the Kendall cinema,
Oh, really? It's just too fancy?
It's a little effete, she thinks.
Is it?
But well, I don't think it is. But
I don't
she
think
thinks
it is either.
No.
Also, it has a lot of mainstream movies now. Like, who can tell the difference? Like,
do you know what I did go to see? They just reminded me.
What?
Melania.
Oh, I was wondering. I was like, why?
Is that nominated for Best Picture?
Not in America 2026, but we'll just wait till 2027.
By the way, the way I always defend myself when people are upset that I went to see Melania, I have two things to say. Well, two things to say. One, I went for 34 minutes only.
Okay.
And two, I did something that was suggested, I think, by a listener, is I bought a ticket to a different movie in the complex so that Bezos and she would not get the money, and then I just walked over and went to the Melania thing. So in any case,
that's a felony.
So we're being joined.
I'm joking, but wait, can I just say one thing
You may
about
say
the
anything you
praise
want.
of movie theaters?
Yes.
And the whole popcorn and
Please,
then the
I wish you
chocolate.
would.
It's like I know people are like antisocial now and why, like whatever, but the experience of a movie theater is still
I agree with you.
So
I agree.
So the human species still lives. And here's the other thing. The sneaking a matinee in is lovely. You're done by 1 o'clock if you can get into an 11 o'clock and
Sort of like us. We're done by 1 o'clock.
Exactly. It's the new us.
We're being joined by Edgar B. Herrick III from the Curiosity Desk. I would assume you have done segments on popcorn.
Yes.
Is that a safe assumption?
That is a safe assumption, including a segment. Somebody asked once asked the Curiosity. They said, if no two snowflakes are alike, is that also true of popcorn kernels? We talked with a scientist about how popcorn forms, which is actually really fascinating.
Well, what's the answer to the question?
Well, the answer is it is probably true that each one is unique, though nobody has actually studied it, so we can't say for sure. But basically, I'm gonna go on this because it's amazing.
Please,
so when popcorn pops, this inside of the seed, right, that all turns to liquid, and the pressure builds up, and it bursts out into the air. But that liquid cools so fast as it's bursting, that becomes the popcorn that you're eating, right? So that is liquid at the moment it pops, and instantly becomes a solid because it cools fast.
I'm not laughing. Wait, I'm not laughing at you because of what you're saying. I'm laughing because Jamie just pointed out my ear. If you're watching on YouTube, can we have Edgar on the video
What's
again?
happening?
Over your left shoulder is my voodoo doll, and over your right shoulder is my Mr. Potato Head given to me by Jamie 2 days ago.
And the Mr. Potato Head is hiding behind that sign, Jim, because he does not have his pants on today.
Yeah, exactly.
So we can't show that. Even on YouTube, we can't show
What
that.
are you doing on the show, Edgar?
Well, it was about 10 years ago. There was a wildfire in Canada, which was one of the craziest things that firefighters had ever seen. 10 years on, we're going to talk with an author of a book about it, about the insane things that happened there and all of the science of this fire, which is it is mind-boggling. So it's going to be really interesting.
Fabulous. We'll be listening.
Great.
Thanks, Edgar B. Herrick III. Thank you. And Juliette, you were brilliant on short notice. Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be on this side. Thank you for having me again.
It's our pleasure. You'll do it again soon.
Well, I'll be, you know where I'll be on Sunday night?
I do know.
In front of the microwave and TV.
I'll be texting
That's
you.
it.
That's Juliette Kayyem. Keep with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tune in tomorrow. Michael Curry from the Mass League of Community Health Centers and the NAACP, former Massachusetts Public Safety Secretary Andrew Cabral, and Globe film critic Odie Henderson, plus GBH's Jared Bowen. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Lawson, our engineer John the Claw Parker, executive producer Jane Bologna. Special thanks to the BPL staff, Matty Geyer, Cullen Cogra, Bill Francis, Eddie Hickey, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cardena. Thanks to our host of New Seed Cafe and the across the street, the Lennox. Stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk, obviously with Edgar, starting immediately. Culture Show with Jared Bowen starts at 2. He'll speak with one of our great friends, Chef Tiffany Faison. I'm Jim Browdy.
And I'm Juliette Kayyem.
Julia, great. See you soon. And we'll see all of you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Explore New England. This original documentary series explores the region's great outdoors through a variety of activities, including camping, biking, paddling, and skiing. Available on YouTube and Roku, or ExploreNewEngland.tv. And Mass General Brigham. In heart surgery, expertise matters. Mass General Brigham Heart and Vascular Institute performs thousands of surgeries each year and is committed to research and innovation. MassGeneralBrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edward Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, Smoky Haze, Canadian wildfires has become a common part of our summers. Inside those raging forest fires, the conditions are so extreme they create their own weather, evaporating moisture in the air and spewing ember for miles. What we're learning in an intense new era of fire behavior. Then we'll bring you up to speed on news for your afternoon with four things to know. And a little while ago, we received a listener question from someone curious about New England's obsession with maple syrup. Specifically, this.
What made first try to treat that?
Not a bad question, David. Turns out there is an answer, and it all ties back to the legend of Gluskok. All ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk. GBH 89.7. Chair number 1.
I'm Lakshmi Singh. The Trump administration is asking Israel not to target Iranian oil facilities any longer. It's following Israel's strikes on Iranian facilities over the weekend. NPR's Daniel Lestrin has this from Tel Aviv.
The Israeli strikes on oil facilities sparked massive pillars of fire and blackened the skies over Tehran. The World Health Organization warned it could cause severe health impacts. Israel said Iran's military used that oil to fuel its missile launchers. An official in the region briefed on the matter told NPR the Trump administration was notified in advance before the Israeli strikes, but was surprised by the extent of the damage. The official said Israel has agreed to the U.S. request to no longer target Iranian oil facilities in the war. The official was not authorized to speak publicly and spoke on condition of anonymity. Senator Lindsey Graham, who is calling for regime change in Iran, said Iranians will need the oil reserves in the future. Daniel Lestrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
In response to the growing threat of an oil crisis, the member nations of the International Energy Agency have approved the release of 400 million barrels from its emergency oil stock. IEA represents some of the world's biggest oil-consuming nations. Global oil prices have been highly volatile for days. The Department of Homeland Security says it restarted the Global Entry program this morning. NPR's Joel Rose reports Global Entry had been suspended during the ongoing partial government shutdown in the U.S.
Global Entry allows pre-approved, low-risk travelers to get expedited processing when they enter the U.S. Travelers have to pay a fee and undergo special vetting to qualify. The Department of Homeland Security suspended the program more than 2 weeks ago, but it is now backtracking amid criticism from the aviation and travel industries. In a statement, DHS says it's restoring the Global Entry option while evaluating the impact of the ongoing partial shutdown, which it blames on Democrats. Funding for DHS lapsed more than 3 weeks ago. Democrats have refused to approve the department's budget unless Republicans and the White House agree on changes to how immigration officers operate. Joel Rose, NPR News, Washington.
Investors are digesting a fairly mild report on February inflation today. But as NPR's Scott Horsley explains, the cost of living index for March could look very different.
A new report from the Labor Department shows annual inflation in February was 2.4%, about what forecasters had expected, and similar to the previous month. The March cost of living index could be a lot uglier now that the U.S. war with Iran has triggered a spike in gasoline prices. AAA says gas prices have jumped about 60 cents a gallon since the war began. Gas prices were already creeping up last month, along with rent and grocery prices. Falling prices for used cars and auto insurance helped keep the February inflation rate in check. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 317 points, or more than 0.5%. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has announced the launch of a public-facing dashboard that'll allow users to track how opioid settlement funds are received, allocated, and spent across Massachusetts. Today's announcement of the statewide opioid settlement funds dashboard, which is managed by the Mass Department of Health's Bureau of Substance Addiction Services, provides interactive access to comprehensive information on how the settlement funds are being handled for substance use prevention, for harm reduction, treatment, and recovery efforts across the Commonwealth. The launch coincides with the release of fiscal year 2025 state and municipal opioid settlement spending data. Dozens of homeowners on Nantucket say they, ever since National Grid installed new smart meters in their homes, they're seeing an increase big time in their electric bills. But National Grid is denying the claims. The Nantucket Current reports many homeowners say their energy bills soared immediately after the installation of these new meters, which provide near real-time energy data and are intended to help customers manage usage and reduce their bills. National Grid began installing the new meters on the island in October 2024 and has installed over 14,000 of them to date. In some cases, bills shot up by more than 500%, but National Grid says it routinely tests the accuracy of smart meters, and the tests are overseen by independent regulators. Increasing clouds this afternoon. We're at 50 degrees right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with its Name Your Price tool, a way to see coverage options based on a driver's budget. Learn more at progressive.com or 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We are streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. It does not shock us anymore when we hear air quality warnings about wildfire smoke. Even in New England, where we frequently smell and see the evidence of massive Canadian wildfires in the summer. But we're coming up on the 10th anniversary of one particular fire that taught everyone a lot about the horrifying new ways that fires behave in an era of climate change. I'm talking about the Fort McMurray fire in Alberta, a fire so intense that after it destroyed most of the town, it continued burning for another 15 months. Writer John Valiant tells the story in his compelling book, Fire Weather. He is speaking tonight at Boston College at 7 o'clock, and he's with us before that in the studio now. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Edgar. So good to be back in my old hometown.
Fantastic stuff. Let's talk about this fire. May 1st, 2016, a fire is first reported by a helicopter forestry crew in a remote area about 15 kilometers from this city, Fort McMurray in Alberta, Canada. By May 3rd, it's sweeping through the city. As I just said, they would not put the fire fully out for more than a year. So can you just orient us a little bit? Where did this happen? And broadly speaking, what happened?
Sure. So Alberta is Western Canada. It's a huge province about the size of Texas. It's also a petroleum hub of the country, kind of like Texas is for the U.S. It's the Fort McMurray is the largest supplier of petroleum products to the United States in the world. So about 4 million barrels of petrochemistry comes out of Fort McMurray and into United States refineries every day. It's really a phenomenon and an anomaly. And this city is located in the middle of the boreal forest, which is that northern sort of taiga-like forest in the far north of our hemisphere. And in the middle of that giant forest is this incredible petroleum hub.
This industrial area.
Hyper-industrial. And so, the biggest machinery in the world is there, dump trucks the size of a 3-story house in their hundreds, mines that cover basically basically 1,000 square miles of the forest has been scraped off and despoiled in order to access this petroleum, which isn't oil in the sense that we think of it coming out of the Gulf or coming out of Texas.
Yeah.
It's what comes out of Venezuela. It's this very tarry, driveway sealer-like substance, but it's saturated in sand. And so it has to be melted out using literally billions of cubic feet of natural gas every single day just to render it into a liquid that can be then piped into United States refineries. It's probably the dirtiest, most energy-intensive petroleum product in the world.
Wow. Okay, so a fire breaks out, and what is it that made this fire so intense? Was it the fact that it's an industrial area? Was this an issue of the conditions being just right in this place? What happened?
So the boreal forest is naturally flammable. There are tree species there like black spruce that will not even regenerate unless their cones are heated to temperatures higher than sunlight will allow. So they need to burn.
Wants to burn.
But they burn every 50 to 100 years. So in a way, Fort McMurray kind of had its number coming up eventually, but they'd always been able to block the fires that came in from the forest. What was different about May 1st, May 2nd, May 3rd, 2016 is the temperature records that day for those days were broken by about 10 degrees Fahrenheit.
So extremely hot for that
hotter than they'd ever seen. And the relative humidity, which didn't mean anything to me when I started this, was around 11 or 12%. And that may not mean anything to us either. But when you start looking around the world to see where 11 or 12% is normal, you have to go to Death Valley in the month of July. So if you transpose desertic dryness to one of the most flammable forest environments in the world and then set it on fire during a period of broken heat records, after a 2-year drought with an El Nino, you have something spectacular and spectacularly destructive.
We're talking with John Valiant about fire and how global warming has changed the rules of how fire behaves, how we need to fight them. So speaking of that, for most of us, I think people think, well, it's a fire, it's hot. We know fire is hot. But for people who understand fire, who work with fire, who fight fire, there are all sorts of degrees, no pun intended, of hot. Dramatically different ways that fires behave, and as you point out, this is an area in the country of Canada where, as you say, they know that the forest is going to burn. But can you describe what was it about this fire that was particularly intense, and how did it behave differently than they were used to?
So they see fires up there every year. They have, Alberta has one of the best wildfire fighting services, in North America. Fort McMurray, as you can imagine, being an oil town, is a very wealthy town. They've got great services inside the city. And what this fire did was something no one had ever seen. So across the front, about 6 or 8 miles wide, was a wall of 300-foot flames that swept into the city. And what we think of this kind of charismatic orange, wall in the distance, but it projects heat. And so radiant heat is what comes ahead of the fire. It moves at the speed of light, and the radiant heat coming out of this 6-mile wide wall of flame was 900 degrees. So every single tree, every single house, every single flower bed is instantly desiccated and then heated beyond combustive temperatures. And so then when the embers start to rain down, because these fires of this magnitude generate hurricane force winds, when the embers, which lead the flames, start landing in the neighborhoods, they don't just sizzle and sputter, they burst into flames. And so what firefighters who are inside the city, again, this is an isolated city, there's no help
there's nothing
outside.
Around it.
So they're in there responding to a normal house fire call, but instead of one house on fire, there's 50 or 500 houses on fire, and they're starting to time the burn times on their watches. And when the first firefighter told me, well, this house burned down in 5 minutes. And I said, well, what do you mean 5 minutes? From a house with no fire on it to flames in the basement, it was 5 minutes. And I was sure he was exaggerating. And I started asking other firefighters who'd been in other parts of the city. And they said 3 minutes, 6 minutes. So what you have is basically total instantaneous combustion. And that's because what radiant heat does is it preheats the fuel. It doesn't just make it hot, it causes all the flammable hydrocarbons in it, in your garbage can, in your rubber tire, in your tar shingle roof, in your vinyl siding, to off gas. And so it's basically the whole neighborhood becomes like a gas can and explodes into flame.
We're going to talk a little bit more about the material science in a moment, because that's a big part of what happens here. First, I want to say your book is called Fire Weather. You just sort of alluded to this. You said, I think, hurricane force winds. The implication here is a fire of this magnitude, a fire of this intensity, is literally creating its own weather system. Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's a technical term in the firefighting and fire science world. Fire weather is basically hot, dry, windy conditions that are conducive to landscapes burning. And fire weather, when the fire gets big enough, it needs a huge amount of oxygen to keep itself going. And so think of a big company that needs a lot of capital. It needs a lot of cash to keep growing.
Yeah.
So think of it as an Amazon or an OpenAI, but made of fire. So it's pulling oxygen in from all around the surrounding landscape, and that's generating a huge amount of air movement, of wind, basically. And then as this plume builds, a fire of this size, the plume can puncture the stratosphere. And so you have what's called a pyrocumulonimbus fire.
Puncture the stratosphere?
45,000 feet.
Wow.
And so it's like a hurricane, and it begins to turn the way a hurricane turns. And they can produce these pyro-CBs, as they're called, can start to generate black hail. They generate lightning that can start fires 30 miles away. They become a basically unstoppable source of kind of perpetual fire motion. And needless to say, there is nothing in the current firefighting arsenal that can respond meaningfully to this, because you go into your neighborhood, houses are on fire, you shoot water at it. When the radiant heat is 500 degrees or 900 degrees, whether you're water bombing or fire hosing, that water, before it reaches the object you're trying to put the fire out on. And that just goes up into the column too, probably energizing the column.
We're talking with John Vaillant about fire, how global warming has changed the rules and how fire behaves. You said when a situation is like this, there's no real meaningful way to fight this. Now, as we said in this case, this is something that starts as a wildfire, and they know there how to fight a typical wildfire. We're also talking about houses burning, so that's an urban fire. This fire in particular is both at the same time. We have different techniques for fighting these two types of fires. However, in this case, neither of them really worked. Why?
So this is the techniques for fighting wildfire are radically different from fighting municipal fire.
So describe the difference.
Sure. So municipal fire, think of a rugby team. A bunch of big strapping folks, men and women with some pretty dedicated equipment.
And
they go
bad ears. Cauliflower ears.
Exactly. And they go charging in to the structure, and it might be a building, it might be a house, but there's usually only one or two of them. And you have a lot of apparatus you can bring to bear, and you're probably going to destroy that structure with water, but you will put the fire out. The team will win. On the landscape, a wildfire is much more like herding like a buffalo. Okay, it's this big wild energy that you're not going to put it out probably once it reaches a certain size, but you can steer it. And you can steer it with fire breaks, you can steer it with fire retardant drops, water drops. And so if there's a town in the way, and if the wind is at all favorable, you can sort of guide the fire away and let it burn itself out in the forest. And so it's a whole different objective. But when the wildfire comes into the wildland-urban interface. This is a term, unfortunately, we all need to know now, even in New England.
Say it again.
The wildland-urban interface, also known as the WUI, W-U-I.
The WUI.
The WUI.
And what is the WUI?
The WUI is where wildland meets the built environment. So Wellfleet, Massachusetts is in the WUI. Worcester, Massachusetts is in the WUI. Newton is in the WUI. We're not too far from it. And so once, so you have something energized in the forest, there's tons of fuel out there. And if you have a heat dome, a drought type situation, and elevated heat, it's going to burn more readily. And I know there have been some serious droughts here in New England. Maine has really suffered over the past few years, and that creates conditions that are conducive to big fire. A lot of Maine's communities, of course, are in the WUI, in that interface zone surrounded by forest. And so you have something energized, with wildfire energy breaking into our neighborhoods. And what is so dismaying is a house in the mind, if you will, of a fire. There is no difference.
Sure.
It's just more fuel.
But let's talk about there are, to a certain extent, there are differences in these fuels. I mean, one of the things that you recount in the book, and it's in gripping language, is the speed with which these neighborhoods, these houses were consumed. And you posit this is at least in part because of how we build and live in the 21st century, that home fires, whether it be in Fort McMurray or in our backyard, home fires are now essentially petrochemical fires. Why is that?
So, it's an interesting time to be talking about this, given what's happening in the Middle East right now. Petroleum is not just energy. It's the feedstock for so many of the products that we use and depend on. A lot of this studio we're in is built of plastics and formica and all kinds of synthetic products that begin as petrochemical. So these are all highly flammable. And again, when you heat that up to 400 degrees, 500 degrees, as the radiant heat from a big fire can do, like even in this studio, if we were to heat that up, we wouldn't be here anymore. But this microphone and everything else would start to off-gas volatile hydrocarbons. And so our homes do that too. So think of what your mattress is made of. Think of your linoleum floor, your formica countertop, your bag of Doritos. All of those start to off-gas, and then when the first ember lands, they're not just going to ignite, they're going to blow up. And that is, we think home is our sanctuary, and there are all these fire safety standards, and, they might work if you drop a cigarette in your sofa, but if things really start to heat up, so to speak, it changes completely. And that's where a log cabin or your grandmother's house in rural Maine stands a much better chance of survival.
Yeah, you talk in the book about this study that was done between this difference between legacy furnishings, quote unquote, and modern furnishings. Yeah. Can you just talk a little bit about that study, because that is mind-boggling.
It is mind-boggling, and it's readily available on YouTube. It's Underwriters Laboratory, trusted consumer watchdog, and they had the bright idea in 2005 of building parallel living rooms and setting them on fire. And the legacy is grandma's house. It's wooden furniture. It's a sofa stuffed with, horsehair or cotton batting, with wool or cotton upholstery. It's lace curtains. It's a wool rug and, wooden tables. Next to it is the modern home, which is nylon and polyurethane and linoleum and various
manufactured woods and
exactly. So with lots of glues and laminates in them. And so what they did is they tipped a candle over on the sofa in each room and stepped back. And for the first 2 or 3 minutes, it just looks like, well, there's a fire on the sofa. What's different about the modern room is the smoke is much blacker, much more frankly, like an oil refinery.
Like an oil fire.
So, but still, it's somewhat controllable. Like you and your kid with a couple of buckets of water could probably put the fires out. At 3 minutes and 20 seconds, the modern home, the modern living room explodes into flame like a refinery fire. It is, and then you're looking at the legacy room, grandma's living room, the fire's still burning in the sofa, and it will do so for another 25 minutes before the whole room ignites.
Wow.
It takes 3.5 minutes to literally blow up a modern living room. And I'm not exaggerating, watch the video on YouTube. It really makes you look at your home differently. And I learned a lot writing this book, and I really wasn't prepared for any of this either. And it's shocking. And it just shows you how deeply infused our entire lives and lifestyles are with petroleum, which is ultimately highly flammable. And that's what it kind of wants to do.
You mentioned the fact that Worcester and other areas not far from here are in what you call the WUI. You wrote a piece in the New York Times in 2024, which was basically a piece that said, hey, Northeast, this stuff that you read about or hear about or smell the smoke from that's happening in Canada or maybe happening in California, it's coming for you. And one of the things that really strikes me is this: you describe a reporter from Provincetown calling you and saying, could the pine and scrub oak forests in Cape Cod, could they burn like these western forests? And you say, in the past, no. Today, yes.
Yeah, and it makes me really sad to say that. I grew up in this region. The climate feels totally different to me now than when I lived here in the 60s and 70s. And I went to the Cape like so many of us did. And there's high humidity there because of the ocean. Yeah. So that's good. That's good for fire suppression. But when you have hotter and drier in pine trees, all bets are off. And so under the right conditions, it's now feasible, for the Cape to burn like Alberta or like California. And that is a really sobering thought. And, we've been, back east here, we've been pretty insulated, but during that fall of 2024, this was a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving. This is historically a cold, damp time of year. There were hundreds of fires burning from Pennsylvania to Maine. Wildfire fighters were killed in New England, and which is just, you hear about that in Colorado, but you do not hear about that here. And it was, overwhelming to a lot of the systems here. And again, there were so many fires and at such an atypical time of year, and that should really set off alarms for all of us.
We're talking with John Valen about Fort McMurray fire, which is almost 10 years ago now, and how global warming is changing how fires behave and the rules on how we fight them. Now, the fire we're talking about that you describe in your book, as I said, 10 years ago now, you're talking about a situation just a few years ago in 2024. 10 years ago, you looked at this fire, and it looks like, to my eye, as I read your book, this is something that, in a place where they know how to fight fires like this, nobody had seen anything like this before. In the 10 years since, we've seen fires like this in places all over the world. You look at that, and you say, this is climate change, right? This is climate change happening in real time.
Well, I'm a reporter, and I pay attention to what smart people say. And Stephen Pine, who's kind of the eminence grise of fire behavior and fire history in the United States, he's written probably a bookshelf of books on fire. He's from out of ASU down in Arizona. Very wise, very smart guy. After the Fort McMurray fire, again, not his area, this is northern Alberta, he said, we have entered the Pyrocene age. We have entered an age of fire. And I read that article, and I listened to what he says. He's a very smart guy. He's been writing about fire for almost 50 years, and climate scientists have been warning us about this for basically since the 50s. And so I'm really reporting what they said, but, in this kind of real-time example. And, think of the LA fire, think of Lahaina, think of the Camp Fire in Paradise, California, think of the Tubbs fire. None of those had ignited in 2016.
Yeah.
They've all happened since then. And so Stephen Pine called it. And, a bunch of people were listening, and I was one of them.
Well, you hear something like that, and it sounds incredibly bleak. So what do you do? What do you do with that information? If I read your book and I say, wow, this is crazy that this happened, and now I know it's happened multiple times since then, what do I do with that information?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's also, it's kind of a reality check, and there's something bracing about the truth.
Yeah.
And we have been being advised by nature, by climate scientists, by anybody who's against oil wars, that an energy transition is probably a good idea. And its urgency is only growing. And there are, within our community, we're not used to thinking about our communities in terms of flammability. But because out west they have been for the past 10 or 20 years, there are now wonderful kind of cooperative arrangements with local firefighting, municipal firefighting services up in Canada Down here in the States, it's called FireWise, where firefighters will come to your community, to your cul-de-sac, to your town hall, and talk to you about how to prepare your neighborhood, your backyard, your garden plantings in a way that will reduce the likelihood of them catching on fire should embers be falling on them. So you and me, for very little money, can alter our immediate environment in ways that will improve our chances of surviving a big fire by double-digit percentages.
Wow.
There's a lot of low-hanging fruit there, and it's really so much of what we're going through now comes down to a change in consciousness. Of just realizing, okay, yeah, it feels hotter on my body. Summers are hotter, but fire responds to that too. So I need to think about my yard differently. I need to think about the leaves in my gutters differently, because that can literally make the difference. If my gutters are cleaned every year versus if I let them go for a few years, that can determine whether my house burns or not.
And the less low-hanging fruit, the sort of energy transition as you talk about, can we get there?
Oh, we absolutely are. I mean, what's amazing, it's hard to see it in North America. I mean, we're really still so beholden through, our lifestyle and through the aggressive lobbying efforts of petroleum companies. We're still so beholden to petroleum. But if you look at what's happening in China, for example, they have bent the curve on emissions. And, they burn prodigious amounts of coal, but they're also building out renewables to the tune of about 1.5 gigawatts a day, practically. And it's changing the chemistry of our atmosphere in a good way. And so we can bend this curve down, and it's going to be about ratios. It's not going to be about ending fossil fuels. That's not going to happen in our lifetime. It's about bending the ratio of emissions, and that's going to be done with renewables, which have never been cheaper and are becoming much more widespread, and they also make fiscal sense. So, for example, last example, Texas, an oil hub of the U.S., a very conservative place where people don't talk about climate, is the leader for the continent in renewable energy development. They are ahead of California in terms of gigawatts per year. And that
sounds like hope to me.
It's practical. It's just it just makes sense, and it makes sense to Texans.
We've been speaking with John Valiant. His book, Fire Weather, A True Story from a Hotter World. It's about the catastrophic Fort McMurray fire 10 years ago and the lessons we can learn from it. John is speaking tonight at Boston College at 7 o'clock, so you can check him out there. Thank you for listening. Just ahead, we've got more on the Curiosity Desk.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, 3 Wahlberg brothers, 3 burgers, 1 family showdown. Chef Paul Wahlberg talks about serving up some sibling rivalry, plus a preview of the Vinfen Film Festival, where filmmakers tell stories about disability and mental health conditions that rarely reach the screen. And from Top Chef to High Street Place Food Hall, Tiffany Faison expands her flavor profile with Tigerbaby. That's on The Culture Show today at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you and Cambridge School of Culinary Arts in Porter Square, offering teen and adult recreational cooking and baking workshops, series, and cooking couples classes for culinary enthusiasts. CambridgeCulinary.com. And the Lowell Institute, Living a Triggered Life podcast in person, presented by the Museum of Science with podcast hosts Roxanne and Keith Maskell. Friday, March 13th at 7:30. Registration info at lowellinstitute.org.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Our senior producer, Aidan Connolly, is with me in the studio.
Hello.
Hey, Aidan.
Hey,
and
Edgar.
I have a question for you, Aidan.
Okay.
Fill in the blank. We're in the daily news business. The first daily newspaper in England, the Daily Courant, was published in the 1700s by...
An Englishman.
Wrong.
Scottish?
Nope.
Welsh?
Nope.
Irish?
No, they were English.
But you just said Oh, yeah. Okay. An English woman.
Correct.
Was the first publisher. Okay, wow.
Yeah,
That's great.
Yeah, Elizabeth Mallet. She was a London-based printer and bookseller, and on this date, March 11th, way back in 1702, she published the debut issue of her daily newspaper. It was all international news, one page, advertisements on the back, and she printed only what she called, quote, matters of fact, and said her readers had sense enough to make reflections for themselves.
Oh, I feel like there's some lessons we can learn for this current moment we're in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, even though the daily newspaper business was not even a business, it was already a boys' club, so she printed it under the name E. Mallet and referred to herself as a he. She sold it after 40 days to another publisher, and it lived on as a daily in the format that she established for decades.
40 days. I mean, that's long enough to make history. That's
Indeed.
Okay, and then for today's news, to my right now, we have Gal Sieperman-Lowtown with us. She writes the GBH Daily email newsletter and is here to give us the rundown. Gal, hello.
Hello, good afternoon. So we'll start today with some news about immigration.
Okay.
You may have already heard about Emmanuel Damas, the Haitian man who lived in Boston and died in an immigration and customs enforcement detention center in Arizona last week. So agents detained him back in September, and for a few weeks before his death, he says he was complaining of a tooth infection and wasn't getting timely medical treatment. Yesterday, Boston City Councilor Ruth Z. Louis-Jean said she spoke with Damas' 80-year-old mother. She called Damas a member of the Boston community and said that, quote, there's absolutely no reason why someone should be dying from a toothache.
Yeah, well, our newsroom will keep following this story for sure.
There's more Boston is doing at a local level to help immigrants who live here. Yesterday, Mayor Michelle Wu announced initiatives to help immigrants, things like help getting legal services and navigating the citizenship process, mental health services, food assistance, and English classes. It's going to cost a total of about $4.5 million.
Oh, okay. So, and the city's been dealing with some budget crunches, though, right? So,
Yes.
How are they going to pay for it?
So most of the money is actually coming from private donations. The Boston Foundation, United Way of Massachusetts, and the Bar Foundation are giving a combined $3.1 million. Here's Boston Foundation President Lee Pelton explaining why they're making the donation.
Meeting the moment, supporting our immigrant neighbors. First, we are making immediate grants to organizations protecting immigrant rights and due process.
And another $1.3 million will come from the city budget.
It'll be interesting to see how people take the city up on its offer. Now, you also have a story about public health research into smoking. Is that right?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, Massachusetts banned the sale of flavored cigarettes like menthols. Now, research from the state's Department of Public Health shows that slightly fewer people in the state are smoking. There's been about a 1.4% dip.
Okay, that sounds like a good thing.
Yeah. And economists from the University of Chicago ran some models and estimated that fewer people smoking means Massachusetts residents are going to save some money on medical care from smoking-related issues. It's about $70 million over 5 years and $200 million over 10 years.
Wow.
The researchers also said they found no evidence that the ban affected the number of retail stores selling tobacco, how many people they employ, or those employees' wages. That was a concern when the ban first was being proposed.
Oh, that's so interesting. And it's interesting to see that ripple effect on the health costs.
Yeah.
Gal, do you have one more story for us?
Yes. So one more. Are you familiar with the Ig Nobel Awards?
Oh, yeah.
No,
I've in fact participated in a few Ig Nobel Awards
What
in
is
the
that?
past.
Oh,
It's the anti-Nobles.
Yes. So it's an annual ceremony presented by the Annals of Improbable Research, honoring scientific research that maybe sounds a little silly at first, right? But when you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find something interesting and useful.
Yeah, Mark Abrams, who does this, has the tagline, which is, it's stuff that makes you laugh, then makes you think.
Exactly. Yes. Like last year's winners included researchers from Italy who studied the physics of pasta sauces and what makes them get clumpy.
Right. And there was also a study about how drinking alcohol sometimes improves people's ability to speak a foreign language, which I love.
Exactly. So this ceremony has been held in Cambridge and Boston for 35 years. But last year, Mark Abrams, who you mentioned, said that some of the winners decided not to attend in person because of uncertainty around traveling to the U.S. And this year, the Annals of Improbable Research announced that because of U.S. visa policies and general fear for some international researchers who are worried they'll be detained if they come here, they're moving the ceremony to Zurich. Here's what founder Mark Abrams told GBH's Tori Bedford.
Given what's been happening in the United States in the last year, we cannot in good conscience invite people to travel to the United States.
He said they'll still have a party in Massachusetts about 3 weeks after the ceremony, in part to honor the local scientific community.
All right.
As a symbol that science and all of the good things and people connected to it are not going to run away from the USA. We're not going to be chased out of here. We belong here and we're staying here.
One of the cool things about these Ig Nobel Awards is they often have actual Nobel laureates who are the ones who are giving the awards to the people who win the Ig Nobels, which is just so cool.
Exactly, and we have such a great community of actual Nobel winners and Ig Nobel winners here in Boston, so it's sad to have those leave.
Well, that's Gal Superman Lotan. She writes our email newsletter, GBH Daily. If you want the latest in your inbox every morning, you can subscribe for free at gbh.org/daily.
Aiden and Gal, thanks.
Hey, thanks,
Thank
Edgar.
you so much.
It is Massachusetts Beer Week. Breweries across the Commonwealth are pouring special releases of craft beer, holding tasting events. No coincidence. St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner. This has all reminded us of a favorite of ours from the Curiosity Desk archives, a story about what beer foam can tell us about how clean our pint glasses are. Matthew Daly from Carleton, Mass. has our question.
I'm curious about whether the head of a glass of beer, when it leaves the ring on the inside of a glass after each sip, if that is an indication of whether the glass is clean or not.
I began my quest for answers by visiting a few bars myself to see if area bartenders could shed any light on whether this particular nugget was a bit of wisdom or nonsense. Some, like Russell Traynor at Avenue in Somerville's Ball Square, looked at me like I had two heads when I brought it up.
Never have I ever heard of this.
Others, like John Tringali at Carroll's in Medford, had, but were a little fuzzy on the details.
I forget what it is, but this glass is either clean or dirty if it has, like, the suds on it.
Still others, like Darren Dennis at Davis Square's Elm Street Taproom, well...
One of my managers is telling me that story, so I just believed him. Seemed like a cool thing to say. So, yeah, I don't know the exact science behind it all, but hey.
But you know who might know the exact science behind it all? A scientist.
There's a lot of interesting physics and chemistry that are going on in a glass of beer.
That's Stanford University chemistry professor Richard Zare. Now, the bubbles that make up a beer's head are due to carbon dioxide dissolved in the beer. Zare says that in general, for bubbles to form in a liquid, a process called nucleation, they need a place to do it, aptly called a nucleation site.
Where do the bubbles form when you start to boil water? Do they form in the middle of the water? Never. They actually form on the wall, on the sides.
The same thing's true when beer is poured in a glass. The bottom and the sides provide nucleation sites for thousands of CO2 bubbles. From there, Zare says the bubbles either stay small and get crushed or grow large enough to escape.
And then they rise and they go to the surface. And so you form the head on a beer.
But each bubble has a little business to take care of during its journey to the head of the glass, says UMass Amherst food science professor John Gibbons.
On its way up, it is doing some other chemistry. It's grabbing onto different compounds that are in the beer.
Yeast, some residue from the hops, and a few proteins, including one that is critical to answering Matthew's question, lipid transfer protein 1, aka LPT1. Now, LPT1 is extremely hydrophobic, which means it really does not want to be in or around water, which is mostly what a glass of beer is. And so, as all those CO2 bubbles float past...
This is like its opportunity to get out of the water. So it clings onto the bubble and takes it for a ride to the surface.
Gibbons says that all of the bubbles that comprise a beer's head are laden with LPT1, just looking for a permanent way out.
But the ones that are on the side of the glass can grab onto something, can anchor onto something. It's that protein that really doesn't want to interact with water, and so it's just sticking to the side of the glass.
There's even a name for this phenomenon. It's called lacing. And while the amount of lacing will be affected by everything from the type of beer you're drinking to the speed at which you drink it, Gibbons says the glass really does have to be clean for it to happen. If there's lipstick, grease, even soap residue on the glass...
All that stuff can interact with the foam and kill the foam and the head and end up killing the lacing effect too.
So that answers one listener's question about what's going down at the top of their beer glass. We know your curiosity has no limits, and so we want you to send your questions our way. Leave us a voice memo at 877-301-8970 or go to gbh.org/curiosity desk to submit a question. We would be very happy to report an answer for you. Coming up, we stay with listener questions. This one is about sap. We're going way back to the origins of maple sugaring with a food expert from the Wampanoag community. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. Don't go away.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll hear from local gas station owners as fuel prices rise, how Jason Tatum's quick return to the NBA post-Achilles tear has experts rethinking the often devastating injury, and diving into the storied career of Delroy Lindo and how he channeled the pain and heartache rooted in the blues for his role in Sinners. That and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Chevalier Theatre, presenting Dancing with the Celts, coming to Medford on March 13th. The Celts combine the sound of Ireland and Nashville and are accompanied by Irish step dancers. Ticket info at chevaliertheatre.com. And Innuendo in Natick, presenting Hunter Douglas Duet Architella PowerView shades for your home and office. Hunter Douglas PowerView automation, measured and installed by their technicians at Innuendo and Innuendo.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Heroic III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Well, as we were just saying here at the Curiosity Desk, we love few things more than hearing from you, learning about what is rousing your curiosity. We recently received this question from a listener in the Tar Heel state about a different sticky substance.
My name is David Borzelica from Charlotte, North Carolina. We used to live in the Boston area and still listen to WGBH. My question is, maple syrup is popular in New England. What made people first try to eat tree sap?
Well, the short answer, David, is that Native Americans here in North America were the first to discover how tasty sap can sometimes be. But that question really left us pining, mapling to know more. Lots of trees have sap. Why did this phenomenon start here? When did maple sugaring begin? How did indigenous communities first discover this process? How did that knowledge get shared with European colonists? So here to help us answer all of these questions and maybe some more about sap and sugar and syrup, we are joined by author and historian Angela Marcelino. Angela, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm really excited to talk about this. I want to start with, as best as we can say, the origins of this practice as best as we know. My understanding is there are a number of origin stories and legends about how sap was quote unquote discovered that come from various indigenous traditions. Can you share one with us?
Yeah, I can. I think, the story of the maple syrup and the maple tree hits upon so many points of Native American culture and religion. It speaks to kinship. The tree is our family, our brother, our sister. That's our psychological way of looking at it. It represents renewal of spring. It also represents conservation, because if you exploit the tree too much or knock it down, like some of the colonists did, you lose your source, and our religion never take too much. That's bottom line. So getting back to the origins of maple syrup, you touch on an interesting subject there. There's what you call legends, is what we call oral history. And oral history, to us, there is some truth in those events.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'll laugh. Our legends, or what you want to call them, we have all the culprits. We have the little people, the Pajwajis. We have Mashup, our orchid-eating giant that lives in Martha's Vineyard. We have an ogre in Nantucket. And then we have our gods, Gooseclap and Keaton. So I'll tell you one of the maple syrup stories, which is really enjoyable. Keaton, our great god, that's the biggest creator.
Yeah.
Came to visit his village that day. And the village people were lying down. They seemed intoxicated. He couldn't figure out why. he noticed, though, that all of the maple syrup trees were full to the brink with syrup. So much syrup that it intoxicated the entire village, apparently, and they were just kind of hanging out.
Drunk on syrup.
Yeah, I guess so. So he was very upset about this because they weren't very productive. And he decided to bring in the water. And so the great God pours in the water and he wakes up all the villagers and he says, now you're going to help me put this water inside the trunks of the tree. So the people obliged to him. Well, after that, the syrup, of course, was watered down. And because it was watered down, it wasn't as, effective. And it also made people appreciate the presence of sweetness, appreciate it, don't overindulge. And of course, they were more productive.
That's a great story. But as you say, in this oral tradition, there is some truth in this story. Clearly in this, that we see some scientific truth, which is showing an understanding of the fact that there is some in the sap. There is a sugary thing besides the water that can be got at, right, by having this kind of reverse process. And the other thing is this demonstrates the fact that this is a resource that indigenous communities here had figured out sometime in the past, something they knew about. So what do we know about, I think a lot of what we know about indigenous communities here kind of starts with arrival of colonists in the late 1500s, 1600s in this area. And best of our understanding is we know that colonists learned certain techniques from native people about how to utilize this resource. How, at that point, how was sap being used? How was it being refined here in this area?
Well, from the Native American perspective, first of all, Native Americans they didn't just utilize maple syrup. They also tapped into bark trees. They tapped into beech trees, and walnut trees were big too for medicinal purposes. So at some point, the bark of the tree was part of our medicinal culture. I assume that at some point, someone tapped a maple tree for either medicine, more than likely, and then, found the sweet taste. And, there it was. We love sugar.
Who doesn't? I mean, we're going to talk about a universal human experience.
Yeah. And getting back to the colonists, when sugar was available in the colony, and my book is about foodways, and it's about how food tells the history of our country. And in this instance, the colonists weren't getting sugar that often. The sugar was being imported here and there. You were lucky to get it. It was a luxury. It was at 2 shillings at that time, which meant it would be $34 a pound today. So it was a big luxury back then. So getting back to the maple syrup, they were just so over the top that they had this sweet source, to add to their hasty puddings and so forth. And it also says that the two cultures were interacting with each other.
Yeah. Talking with author and historian Angela Marcelino about sap, sugaring, and maple syrup. Do we know what the techniques, that were being used kind of at that time are, and how similar or different they are from the techniques used now to refine sap, to extract the sugar from the sap or turn it into syrup?
Yeah, I think it speaks to a lot of things about, of course, changing in technology. And the Native Americans had a kind of the box style way of getting to the syrup, and that was they would gash the tree horizontally, or they would take a hollow stick and insert it in, and out would come the resin, and put it in a birch bark basket, which they made. And that was the way we would collect it. Once it was collected, they would either separate, reduce the syrup by adding it into a cooking pot and throwing in hot stones, making the water part evaporate and leaving, of course, the syrup. The other way, which is actually better technology, I thought, was
go on.
What they did is I thought this was great.
You're like, this was
the colonists.
This was a good idea.
Yeah, this is good. what they did was they put the resin in a low container, I guess a low birch bark, so that it was only inches high, and they let it freeze. And when it froze, the separation happened.
Oh, so the water would freeze, and then
Yeah.
you'd knock the water off.
Yeah, no work, man. That's so
Very
great. Well,
clever.
the colonists liked that a lot. They were the first colonists that were really interested, of course, were the colonists that were interacting with us up in what you call modern day Maine, the fur trappers and so forth. And then there were stories of also the Potawatomi tribe and the Virginia tribes. And I guess the colonists were so excited about sugar, because you got to understand, sugar back in this, it's like sugar back then was big.
Yeah.
Your body craves sugar, and you don't get it every day. That's why people love chocolate, because chocolate is your two favorite things. It's fat and sugar.
Yeah, I mean,
the body
both delicious.
wants it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody was very excited, and the colonists were so excited that they knocked down all the trees, which was bad. And there we go again. That speaks to our conservation efforts. Native American would never knock down a tree or exploit it.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. We're speaking with Angela Marcelino. She is the author of The True Natives of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Their Foodways. We're talking about sap and sugar. Today, the maple syrup alone market is estimated to be like a $1.64 billion worldwide market. It's projected to grow to $3 billion by 2034. 75% of the global market, by the way, is happening here. North America is, in Quebec and Vermont in particular is where it's all coming from. So, this is a big, huge global market. But as you point out, this idea of maybe don't get greedy. Don't overindulge. How is the tradition of maple sugaring in the way that you're talking about? How is that being preserved today in the Mashpee community?
Well, Mashpee right now, I'll be frank with you, it was more of Mashpee people were more hunters, gatherers, and foragers. They did do some tree tapping, but not as much as the northern tribes, so I don't want to let you down on that.
That's okay. You don't have to.
So, but, that's basically what I had to say is that we heard about it in folklore and stuff like that, but our tribe actually used sassafras for sassafras tea, and they still do to this day, and walnut birch tapping, which is tapping of syrup, but it's more of a medicinal syrup.
Well, no, it's just real quick, before I let you go, tell me more about this walnut birch tapping and how it's used.
Oh, it's great. It's medicinal. It's used we have people in our tribe that still forage. We have people that practice medicine. I can't get into the details on that because all that stuff is private.
Yeah. Okay. I'm intrigued, though.
Yeah. But we still believe those things. Our tribe is still a communal society. We still hunt and fish on our land. We practice and walk our ancient pathways, and we're your neighbors.
What can you tell me about the importance of continuing to do the things that you talk about, to continuing to live in that way in 2026?
I think it's so, right now our religion is, and people practicing it, and you can practice several religions as far as I'm concerned, is the religion that's going to save planet Earth. That's our job, is walk softly on this earth, honor all the animals, the plants, the water, be very aware of them, because if they're gone, we're gone. It's an aha moment,
Yeah.
It's a very simple thing. And people don't believe it, but Native Americans, we really have a psychology that's, greed is just a bad thing.
All
Really
right.
bad.
Greed is bad. I'm going to end on that note. Thank you for that. We've been speaking with author and historian Angela Marcelino about sap, sugaring, and maple syrup. If you have a question for the Curiosity Desk, send it our way. We will do our best to get it answered for you. Joining us right now before we say goodbye is the host of the next show, The Culture Show, Jared Bowen. Hi, Jared.
Hey there, Edgar.
Are you a sweet... we were talking about sugar last time. Now we're talking about syrup. It's all sweet tooth here.
I do like maple syrup. Of course, the real maple syrup from Vermont or
the good
surrounds.
stuff.
Yeah.
What do you got on the show today?
Speaking of food, we have Chef Paul Wahlberg here on the show with us today. He's going to be talking about the Brothers Combo and some events that Wahlburgers is doing. The Brothers Combo it's a very difficult choice to have to choose between Paul, Donnie, and Mark and their favorite burgers. So we'll talk about that. And, of course, building that Wahlburgers empire. David Brown is here to talk about Vinfen Film Festival. This is a film festival that brings disability stories to the screen, stories that don't often make their way to the screen. They're having a big film festival. And then Tiffany Faison is here to talk about her new restaurant, which is really dominating High Street Place, the food hall in downtown Boston. Of course, she's a celebrity chef as well, so we have lots of food to talk about today.
Very good. That's...
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865. Celebrate the effortlessly cool Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Roy Orbison. Musical partnerships and much more, featuring some never-before-seen performances. You got it with Roy Orbison Forever, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
Your GBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show News Desk, I'm Henry Santoro. While this protest anthem was originally written and performed by the 1960s R&B group The Temptations, it was Nashville, Tennessee-born singer Edwin Starr who made it his own and turned it into a massive hit in 1970. 5 years before the end of the Vietnam War, the song spent 3 weeks at number one, but more importantly, it never left the public's consciousness. But there was another song from that era that stuck with the public consciousness as well.
Give me an F! Give me a U! Well, come on, all you big strong men, Uncle Sam, need your help again.
We found out this past Saturday that Country Joe McDonald, the musician who performed at Woodstock and led the psychedelic folk band Country Joe and the Fish, had died at 84 of complications from Parkinson's disease. His official obituary says McDonald was widely recognized as one of the defining voices of the 1960s counterculture movement. His music blended folk, rock, and political commentary, capturing the spirit of a generation deeply affected by social upheaval, civil rights struggles, and the Vietnam War. Sound familiar?
There's plenty good money to be made, supplying the army with the tools of trade.
Throughout his career, Country Joe released nearly 50 albums from the early 1960s to the 2010s, but it's his Fish Cheer Vietnam song that put him on the map when 500,000 folks sang it with him at the first Woodstock Festival in 1969. That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, 3 Wahlberg brothers, 3 burgers, and a serving of sibling rivalry. Chef Paul Wahlberg, the culinary force behind Wahlburgers, joins us to talk about the new Brothers Combo, the Dorchester Memories on the menu, and a pop-up celebration where it all started, the original restaurant in Hingham. Then we get an overview of the 19th annual Vinfen Film Festival. It's returning with movies that put disability and mental health front and center, stories that challenge stereotypes and reveal lives and perspectives we don't often see on the big screen. And few chefs shape Boston's dining scene like Tiffany Faison. Her latest move, expanding her culinary campus at High Street Place Food Hall, where she now has 5 concepts under one roof. The newest is Tigerbaby, inspired by Southeast Asian flavors. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7, broadcasting from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. In Boston, the Wahlberg name carries a lot of associations, movies, music, Dorchester lore, but Paul Wahlberg has given the family name a culinary identity, all its own. He's turned childhood memories, working class roots, and a big family story into a restaurant brand. Now he's putting sibling rivalry on the menu. The family restaurant chain Wahlburgers has launched a limited-time Brothers Combo, inviting diners to choose among signature burgers from Paul, Donnie, and Mark. And next Monday, Chef Paul Wahlberg will appear at the original Hingham location for a pop-up event. He joins me to talk about it all, Brothers Burgers, and serving up some sibling rivalry. Chef Paul Wahlberg, welcome to The Culture Show. Great to have you here.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you very much.
And you come bearing burgers, all beautifully arrayed.
Always bearing burgers. So we have the classic Our Burger, we have, which is my choice. We have the barbecue bacon burger, which is Donnie's choice, and then the OFD, which stands for Originally from Dorchester, which is Mark's choice.
Well, I have to say, I looked at the menu, and so you're asking people to choose among the three.
Yeah,
it's
a combo. We're doing a combo meal with it, and but people get to choose, and everybody's going to have their favorite.
Well, I'm going to put yours next to me because I already looked at the menu, and yours is my favorite. Excellent. So we'll just trade there. But how did this come to be? How did you all devise your own burgers?
It was basically, for me, I just wanted to do that classic American burger: lettuce, tomato, pickles, onions, and homemade sauce. We do a wall sauce for it, and again, everything when we first opened, everything was from scratch. So we were just really like going and really trying to create things, and then thinking about Donnie, where he's out in California, so he had moved out there, and so for him and what he was doing, and he was, those spices, the avocado, the jalapenos, barbecue sauce, bacon, and stuff like that. And so it seemed like a really good fit with him. And then Mark originally was the Thanksgiving burger, and it was a turkey burger. But then once we ran the OFD as a special, he's like, oh yeah, he goes, I need beef. And so Mark settled on the OFD.
Does he eat burgers and fries?
He does eat burgers and fries. He eats. It's funny, he does a lot of intermittent fasting, and so he'll kind of work his way through stuff, but when he wants to sit down for a burger, he sits down for a burger. And when you think about it, it is pretty clean what he's eating. The bread, and there's only so many fries, but we have our certified Angus beef. Everything's fresh. All of the toppings we make and cook in house. So it's really amazing what we do. And so if you're gonna have your so-called cheat day, you gotta have your favorite.
That makes us all feel better for all of us who love burgers to know that he eats them as well. Well, I love your story in creating Wahlburgers, and how much it harkens back to how you grew up as a family. Yep. How did you carry forward your meals around the table for this?
Well, thinking about when we grew up and how important, first of all, we were hungry all the time, and we were always extremely active. We were just always getting into whatever, and but for us to that meal time was also that family time, which you don't see a lot now today, or as much today, because everybody's got, sports and this and play date, all of these different things, all of the different distractions. Both parents are working, so it's a lot of it. It's a little more complicated. And so thinking back to those days, and then that nothing was better than my dad cooking out on the grill, and during the summertime, and we're all like having burgers and hot dogs and just kind of really reliving that, and it was very important to us.
In addition to, we'll get back to the food that was at the table, but in addition to the food at the table, was there mandated topics of discussion, homework reveals? What would happen?
No, it was just, I think my parents wanted a little peace and quiet, and we were busy eating. But there was always good conversation. There was always, catching up on what was up. But Sunday dinner was the day. Everybody was home on Sunday for dinner. And that was, and we usually eat earlier, probably like 2-3 o'clock. And you were there, and it was that big meal. And so, and thinking about that, and it's funny, I was telling someone, my dad would his job got him up very early in the morning. And so on the weekends, a lot of times he didn't sleep, and so a lot of Sundays he would do dropped eggs on toast. The poor guy had to poach 2 dozen eggs to get us all fed, including my mother and himself. And by the time, and we would just, but it was just those things that you remember in the meal times and sitting there and thinking about. It was funny, at one event I made food for Mark and Donnie for this thing that we had grown up on. And they're like, yeah, I never liked that. I was like, how could this is one of my favorite things of all time. It was like a shepherd's pie. I'm like, this is one of my, nope, didn't like it. I didn't like it. And it was just so funny. But everybody
it's like an
has,
earthquake to realize, to have a revelation like that.
Absolutely. It's those memories that you have, and you kind of, obviously the rose-colored glasses kind of type of a thing. But I'm like, well, if I loved it, everybody loved it.
Well, how did your interest in food become your career?
I started cooking. I was catering with my friends. A bunch of my buddies worked for a company called Joseph's Catering. They were based over in Mattapan. And it was just a bunch of guys on the weekends would go. And there were obviously grown people, adults, kind of managing everything. But it was all kids from Dorchester, Hyde Park, Weymouth, Braintree. The owners were based out of Braintree. And so I started working there. And I really kind of liked the energy and everything. And then when that slowed down, my friend's dad owned a restaurant on Canal Street, a place called Trolley's down the street from the Garden. And they said, like, we're looking for a dishwasher. Do you want to come over? I said, sure. So I went over there, started doing that. And then they moved me into the kitchen, and I started prepping. And one guy literally said to me, you should, you're really good at this. You should be a chef. And it was like Forrest Gump. I was, okay. and I literally, like, once that clicked, I said, oh my God, I can make a living doing this. And this was my future. And then it just went on from there.
And then how did you see, because I know you've worked at the Four Seasons, before this, you worked at the Four Seasons, so you saw high-end, of course, with Wahlburgers, that you can do, not to say it isn't high-end in what you craft, but you can do all manner of food. How did you land on what you were going to take from your family and then put out into the world?
Well, we have Alma Nove, which is our sister restaurant, and I love burgers. I eat a lot of burgers, and it was one of those things where those elevated burgers were just really starting to take off, and it just happens to have a name, Wahlberg, and thinking about all of the nicknames that we got from all of our friends that would just chop up your name. So we getting called Wahlburger every once in a while was a pretty regular thing.
Wait, what were some of the others before we continue?
Oh, you don't? Yeah. Some of them I can say, some of them I can't.
Wait, at least give me one other one you can say.
Wally Gator. Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay.
You would hear stuff like that. It was always different and depending on who it was, and it's what kids do. And especially growing up in the city, and we're always playing sports and doing this and doing that, and you're always everybody gets a nickname.
But I derailed you. So then
yes.
you came together, and you all three came together because
yes.
all three of you clearly understand business
yep.
as well as entertainment.
Yep.
So how did it become an enterprise that you could share in adulthood?
Well, as we're talking about it, and obviously the name, and it's kind of relative to all of us and who we are. And so that just kind of like one, and Mark and Donnie were already involved in Alma Nove. And so it's just kind of that natural progression with that. And then, Mark looking at it and say, this is something that's scalable, and really kind of putting it out there.
I'm speaking with Chef Paul Wahlberg, of course, one of the three behind Wahlburgers. You can meet Chef Paul in person at a pop-up celebration Monday, March 16th from 5 to 8 at the original Wahlburgers in Hingham. By the way, some proceeds from that event will also go to the Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester. Well, in devising this, you also, of course, were in a television series with
yep.
your brothers. And what did you take away as you dropped into that world, their world,
yep.
in entertainment? What did you learn about that?
Their world is very difficult.
Really? More than being a chef?
Yes, because there's that thing, and especially, I had worked on set with Mark on a couple of films. I was his chef. And I watched him do it. And it was crazy. And obviously Donnie growing up and watching Donnie kind of go through all of his things with the new kids and the hard work that goes into it. Because for those guys, it's 24 hours a day. Mark is always Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Right? And when you look at it, and so for him, the working out regiment and all of this and keeping in shape and then learning his lines. And I will tell you, there is no one better prepared. There is no one better prepared going in when he's working. And he is a true professional, and the same with Donnie. And Donnie, those guys growing up with it, and especially with the fans, the new kids fans, and you watch them and the relationship that they have now when all of, the guys are, 50s and their fans are in 40s and 50s, some of them 60, and it's amazing to see that relationship. And so that hard work, but it was great to do because obviously it's good for the business, but I got to spend more time with my mother, my brothers, and having that thing and kind of that, and then the chaos that goes on with it, and kind of reliving a lot of the things from when we were kids.
How did your family deal with when the various waves of fame came with the two brothers and keeping you all grounded?
It was difficult because you just in Dorchester, they don't let you forget who you are, right? So you got a lot of that, but it was also my parents were like, at the end of the day, we grew up very humbly. And so for us, remembering our job now is to say thank you. And so what we try to say thank you every day in terms of with gratitude and for me, it's customer service. My job is to make people happy coming into a restaurant. So and hopefully I do a good job at that. And that's the big thing for all of us. But, again, we were very blessed, but there was a lot of hard work in there, and the harder we work, the luckier we get.
Is there, I have to say, how much of the politeness was instilled? I will tell you, I have interviewed both of your brothers, so you're the third in my Wahlberg bingo card.
Oh, geez.
And they are so polite, it is kind of singular. I've interviewed so many celebrities over the years, but their politeness is very different. And is that something that you've always had, or do you work at it for that thanks that you're
No,
appreciative of?
That was beaten into us, and sometimes it took more than one beating. But it was that thing that was important. I mean, we grew up, we're older, and we grew up in a time where, you said thank you. You held the door for people. There's that politeness that's required. And then, again, because Mark and Donnie are so professional in what they do, and they're caring for their fans and anybody. And it's the way it was supposed to be. And that's kind of the way we are brought up. It's like, you're supposed to be this way. You're supposed to be respectful. The firm handshake, the whole politeness, and all of that thing. I mean, that was instilled in us very young.
So as you were thinking about Wahlburgers and even the design and the feeling you wanted people to have every time they entered a restaurant, how did you think about that and what you were crafting?
Well, it was hard because we talked about, that it's not just about the stardom and the fame part of it. And so we harken back to where we came from, living in those triple deckers. And then, obviously we were fortunate to move into a single family house, but growing up as humbly as we did, the origins of that. And that's, isn't that what America's kind of about?
Yeah.
When you think about that, the ability for people to grow, and then the hard work and dedication to it all, and the seriousness to it. It's not just that celebrity aspect. And this is what I've done my whole life. So, for me, it's real food.
And you could walk away from it presumably at any time, but you don't.
I don't know about that, but I just, for me, this is who I am in terms of what I do, and my love for making guests happy, making good food, enjoying training people, working with people, because it's so huge to all of us, and it's a team effort, and there are so many people involved that make it all happen and come together, and that thing, and it's like the same with with Mark and with Donnie when they're either with the bands or filming and stuff like that. It's a team effort. And so it depends on so many people. And so being part of that, it's great. And I still live off the energy. And the energy is so high in the restaurants. It's always fun.
And is it consistent? Because now you're well beyond Massachusetts, too. As you've branched out into other parts of the country, how do you find that experience?
The experience is good. Sometimes it takes a little time to translate it and get it. But at the end of the day, it's all about the food and all about the experience. And so if we can deliver quality food and a quality experience, people really enjoy it and come back.
So back to the burger designing. How far because you're right, I mean, as you know, everybody loves burgers and people love to play with what's in burgers. How far can you push what goes on or in a burger?
You can push it to any direction, and it's amazing when you think about it, especially now when you people have meatless options and all these different things that they want to do. The fun of it all, and it's like pizza. It's like whatever you like, and it's not the same for everyone. Some people I love mustard, so there's lots of things I put mustard on. There are lots of things I put ketchup, whatever it is, and so the different cheeses, the different spices, and sometimes you'll feel like you've probably said, oh, this would be good with X, or this would be good with Y. And so it's such an open palette.
Well, and I love the open palette concept, because what's been the biggest surprise to you? Because there are things that you hear of, you think, well, that would never work, or it just sounds horrible, but then you taste it and it's something altogether different.
I think, to me, one of the biggest surprises over the last how many years has been the spice level, because this area was not very spicy, shall we say, right? And so the spice level that kids will go to and all of that, it's amazing. And that's the thing too with the younger generation is they're so willing to experiment and so willing to try different things. But again, you think, oh, that's never going to work, and boom, off it goes, and people are amazed. And and there's ebbs and flow in everything that we do. Where our cultures change, society's taste change, whatever it is. And so trying to be part of it, trying to be relevant, and but at the end of the day, we're still trying to do a quality product and make people happy. When you look at everything, all our fresh vegetables, everything that we do for it, we really work hard at what we do.
Well, I can't let you go without asking you about, there has been the big hoopla about the McDonald's CEO who was doing a video about their new Arch Burger and took the wee tiny little bite, and he's been blasted for it everywhere. What did you make of that as the other CEOs got involved and really knew how to take a chomp out of a burger?
Burgers are meant to be bitten. That's all I can say, and you got to enjoy it. It's the happiness business. Make yourself happy. Take a big bite.
That's very good.
But you know what? People do what they do, and sometimes we just got to have fun with it.
Yeah. Well, Chef Paul Wahlberg, thank you so much for being here today.
Awesome.
And again, you're part of the proceeds are benefiting the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, 20%, and take out everything but alcohol. So you come on in, have some laughs. We're going to have a DJ there. We're going to have a great time. First 50 people in the door get autographed T-shirts. So it'll be a lot of fun, and it's it's for a great cause with obviously the Boys and Girls Clubs of Dorchester, so near and dear, and the Mark Wahlberg Youth Foundation and all the work that they do. They do amazing. And again, this is to remind us of where we came from and to be humble.
Well, it's great to know that it comes back here. Thank you again so much.
Awesome.
And
Thank you very much.
Congratulations for what you've done, and good luck on Monday.
Thank you very much. Absolute pleasure.
Chef Paul Wahlberg is part of the Wahlburgers chain, and they have their new Brothers Combo available now through May 11th at participating location, letting diners choose among signature burgers from Paul, Donnie, or Mark. And again, you can meet Chef Paul in person at a pop-up celebration Monday, March 16th from 5 to 8 at the original Wahlburgers in Hingham. Coming up, we have a preview of an annual film festival featuring a mix of feature films and shorts challenging the stigmas of mental health conditions and disabilities. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, we'll hear from local gas station owners as fuel prices rise, how Jason Tatum's quick return to the NBA post-Achilles tear has experts rethinking the often devastating injury, and diving into the storied career of Delroy Lindo and how he channeled the pain and heartache rooted in the blues for his role in Sinners. That and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Art Complex Museum in Duxbury, Massachusetts. currently displaying the Duxbury Art Association Winter Juried Show. Prints by Armin Landeck and works by Massachusetts artist Mo Kelman. More at artcomplex.org. And Johnson & Wales University, committed to going beyond the classroom by helping students develop networks, obtain real-world experience, and providing hands-on learning that makes an impact. More at jwu.edu. And M. Steinert & Sons, celebrating the 173rd anniversary of Steinway & Sons this March. Their Newton Piano Gallery offers new and used grand and upright Steinway pianos. More at msteinert.com/March.
Find that Friday feeling early at GBH Music's Jazz Night, featuring mandolin player Ian Corey and cellist Catherine Bent. Tomorrow at 5:30 at the Boston Public Library. Get a free ticket at wgbh.org/events.
Canadian pop rock group featuring 4 musicians on the autism spectrum. A documentary about the group is among the films you can see at the 19th annual Vinfen Film Festival. Every year, the nonprofit organization Vinfen uses film to challenge barriers and stigmas surrounding mental health conditions and disabilities. The festival takes place at our GBH studios in Brighton. This year's event is Saturday, March 28th. Joining me, as he does every year now at this time for the festival, is David Brown, Vinfen's Vice President of Communications and Development. Welcome back to the Culture Show. Great to see you.
Thank you so much. What a great day. I feel like I'm in this kind of food world between the Wahlburgers and Tiffany Faison. They talked about popcorn and Jim and Marjorie and then maple syrup. And
it's a good day to be a host here at GBH, exactly. I will say. Well, tell us, remind people, first of all, what Vinfen is before we even get to the film festival.
Yeah, so for 50 years, Vinfen has been in the disability space. We provide community support, residential support for individuals living with significant mental health challenges, intellectual developmental disabilities, individuals with brain injury, families with autism, and behavioral health centers. So we're from the Merrimack Valley all the way down to Nantucket with over 500 locations.
And we've talked about this on the area, very steeped in the arts, too, with Gateway Arts and opportunity for artists.
Well, and you've been such a big booster of Gateway Arts, just the gem of Brookline. 100 artists, fantastic art. They live with intellectual or developmental disabilities, but their art shines bright. They just moved to Station Street across from the Green Line, so they have an open gallery as well as a store, so check them out.
And the art there is fabulous, I will say. Well, keeping with the arts, then we come to this film festival, which is so significant because we don't often see representations of this kind on film. So how is that addressed with this annual film festival?
Right, so storytelling is powerful, right? And particularly as we head towards the Oscars, right? On Sunday, we know how powerful storytelling can be, whether it's a short, a documentary, or a feature film. So centering the story on individuals with disabilities, whether they are the filmmaker themselves, whether it is their story in a documentary, or you just heard the beautiful music from ASD Band, whether it's following these 4 young people who have a passion for music from their garage band to the stage at Canada's Got Talent, you know, filmmaking, storytelling is universal, and it's just so wonderful as Vinfen and the organization to be able to bring some wonderful stories to Boston.
And we'll dive into the individual films in a minute, but tell me about the creation of this and how it happens in terms of being aware of what's happening out in the film world, what's surfacing that you can bring about and screen here.
Well, it's twofold. First of all, you know, this started 20 years ago, and it was predominantly for clinicians who had some interest in learning more about storytelling. And it has since kind of morphed into the premier film festival in New England centered in the disability space. And so we have an internal film festival committee, and this committee reviews dozens and dozens of film. And I spend all of May and June just scouring different catalogs, looking for films that speak to me and I think would speak to the committee. Then the committee reviews them, and then we select a number of films, whether it's a short film, a feature film, or a documentary.
And then this just doesn't end with screenings, as if that isn't enough, but there's a whole complement of programming that happens that day. What can people experience?
Right. I mean, how many times after a movie you leave the film and you want to talk to somebody about it? And so we give that opportunity to everybody. So we have panels right after the film, and some of these panels have the filmmakers, some of the panels have clinicians who know about the conditions, whether it's living with in the world of recovery or living with brain injury, or we have some of the stars of the film. And so it's just a great way to end the arc of the story, to meet the filmmakers, meet the participants, and learn more about life with a disability.
I'm speaking with David Brown, Vinfen's Vice President of Communications and Development. The Vinfen Film Festival happens Saturday, March 28th at our GBH studios in Brighton, and as you mentioned, features screenings and panel discussions. Let's dive into some of the films now, and I'll start with a clip from Patrice the movie. Here's the trailer for Patrice the movie, an Emmy Award-winning documentary about marriage equality from the perspective of a disabled couple.
Patrice always sees the best side of life. If it can be done, she will do it. I really love Gary. He's everything. He just looked at her and I said, "Would you like to be my wife?"
If you get married and you're collecting a Social Security benefit, your benefit will be cut.
We have to have it. We'd never be able to pay for the bills.
I want to get married. I want to be able to live in the same house as my spouse.
Here is the church and they can stop us from getting married. They can stop us from living together, but they're never going to stop us from loving each other.
I know this had a particular resonance for you. Tell me about this film and how it struck you.
Well, right. If you want to feel good about humanity, this is the movie for you. Patrice, first of all, is just so captivating. And what they're talking about is marriage penalty. If you live with a disability and get some benefits from the government, if you marry, that benefit is reduced. So it is a tax. It's a penalty if you get married. So they advocate on Washington on behalf of this. But there's also the story of Patrice is a crossing guard. She loves being a crossing guard in New Jersey. Her van breaks down. She can't get to work. So it's also about how the community rallies to actually help her afford a $75,000 van. Plus the storytelling is so unique because we learn about her traumatic childhood, and she, as an adult, is cast in the role of herself as a child, with children actors recreating elements of her childhood. So it's just a unique way to tell a story. And I'm super excited by the fact that Gary and Patrice and filmmaker Ted Passion will be coming up to Boston to be part of the panel discussion. They made a splash on the red carpet in LA at the Emmys just about 8 months ago because this film won an Emmy. So we are really excited to welcome them to Boston and welcome them to GBH.
Well, you were in the news business for years too. What is the difference you feel when people might hear of a policy issue like this, where their status cancels out their possibility to get benefits, to then see it actually play out because you're in the intimate confines of their relationship, their car, their home?
You're rooting for them, right? And they don't talk about the penalty with the club, right? They just tell the heartfelt story of two human adults who love each other and want to get married, but for financial reasons they can't. That's just not fair. And so as a human being, we are just pulled into the story. And Patrice is the ultimate storyteller, and you will love her by the end of the movie. I certainly have, and she's just a delightful human being.
I want to return to something. We played the music at the beginning of the show, but ASD, the band, speaking of rooting for a group or rooting for individuals, what do we find here coming together?
Well, this is 4 friends who met at a support group for young people who live with autism spectrum disorder. And they are fantastic musicians. And so they just decide in a garage to play a band, to form a band. But then one of them has a desire to actually perform in front of people. And so their journey from the garage band in rural Ontario to a stage at a club, but also realizing that some clubs are not necessarily made for folks who live with autism. They might have some sensory challenges. So this club makes it a point of making sure that it is a completely welcoming environment for all musicians. So they go, they play at the club, they have a great time. But then their journey doesn't stop there. It goes all the way to Canada's Got Talent, very similar to America's Got Talent. And then they get a play in front of, obviously, a global audience. So it's a story of music, it's a story of friendship, it's a story of community collaboration and music.
And it seems already a through line in what you've talked about for these 2 films is independence as well, because I think that there's often this notion applied that people with any level of disability can't find their own independence.
Right, and that's actually the point of a film called Row of Life. It follows a para-Olympian by the name of Angela Matson, and she wants to be the first para-Olympian to row solo, row from Southern California to Hawaii. And so her story is not only of independence, but the of risk, or actually the dignity of risk. How folks with disabilities are often, from an able-bodied person, are sheltered, are meant to kept safe. That's not independence. Independence is being able to walk across the road in traffic. It's able to go on a date, get married, but it's also able, if you want to and you have the ability, to row across the Pacific.
All right, I have a lot more questions about this, but let's listen to the trailer for Row of Life, which chronicles the experience of Paralympian Angela Madsen in her attempt to solo row, as you said, from Los Angeles to Hawaii.
My name is Angela Madsen. And I'm rowing from Los Angeles to Hawaii solo. Getting blown off course, it'll probably be close to 2,700 miles.
I'm not sure why Angela loves rowing oceans. I think she might just be a little insane.
You can fail at any time in ocean rowing.
It's gone over twice already. I don't think she could live with herself if she quit.
It's a capability that we share as humans, to be able.
This is extraordinary, and this isn't the only thing she's done in this regard. Can you, we don't want to give spoilers, of course, but give us a sense of the arc of her life that takes her to these moments?
She's a veteran, and so she becomes disabled due to an accident, but she just physically, emotionally and mentally is such an athlete. And so she has broken and attempted every single record when it comes to track and field, somebody with a disability. And she becomes this world-class rower. And whatever it is that sparks an athlete to want to push the limits, she has that. So she put together a team. It involves her wife, Deb Madsen, a team of coaches, and they plot out a course across the Pacific Ocean. What I loved about it also, being a former weather guy, is the fact that a meteorologist in San Diego is plotting her course live on the air and giving updates to the folks in San Diego from her community. So it is a story on determination. It's an adventure story, but it's just deeply human.
Yeah, well, so now you have that perspective of meteorology, as you say. Can you describe what she would encounter on a crossing like that across the Pacific?
So you have to deal with the solitude, right? And the fact that you are alone in this, and it's not just a rowboat. We're not talking a canoe. We're not talking a kayak. This is a high-tech ship that she is manually rowing. It is tricked out with GPS, with weather equipment, with food for this journey, and she has to solo navigate with the equipment that she has on board, but she also has to maneuver, so she has no ability from the waist down, so she has to maneuver around the boat to make sure that all the riggings are set, that the oars are in place, that there are no leaks from waves coming over. So it's an adventure movie, but it's also a deeply personal movie of one woman's kind of journey and desire to set a record that's deeply personal to her.
I can feel your energy just in talking about all of these films. As you said, you're the one doing so much of the screening of these films. It must change you after you see story after story. Yes, there's a bad that comes with this too, and understanding some of the policies in place that are barriers for so many people. But when you see these stories, it must make you more positive about life.
It does. And it also lets me in on a world that, before I left TV and went into nonprofit work, I never necessarily thought about it. But since I've been in, the nonprofit world, I've had the ability to hear and witness people's stories. When I was at the Mass Association for the Blind, I managed the largest team of blind athletes running the Boston Marathon. To this world that I'm in now, in which we give young artists an ability to do their art. We give individuals an ability to train for jobs that they've never had. We all have a story to tell. And in the job that I have now, I get the ability to give people a platform to tell their story.
So there's one more film I want to ask you about. This is called Recovery City. Before we talk about it, here's a little bit from the trailer to Recovery City, which explores the lives of 4 Worcester women fighting to destigmatize the recovery process.
What is wrong with me? 8 years ago, that was my question. It wasn't a drug. It wasn't my criminal behaviors. There was something deeper inside of me that had to be addressed.
Can I get a hug? I love you. I love you so much. A lot of it is just stigma.
people look at that pattern in my history and think, oh, she's never going to change.
Together we are stronger. Recovery is possible. Together we are stronger.
And in City Hall, in that bathroom, that's the last place that I got high. And I've been in recovery ever since.
This film sounds extraordinary too, because it sounds like it's a very objective look at what these women have been through, all of the ups and downs.
Right. And when we think of recovery and we think of individuals who are unhoused or living on the streets, we perhaps think of their challenge. Women in particular have different layers of challenges that many folks don't or are unaware of. You know, the one woman who talked about her child, she no longer has custody of her child. So this movie not only follows her path of recovery, she has been sober for a very long time, but because of the complexity of the court system, has a very hard time regaining custody of her child through stigma, through what other people think she must be like because of the way that she'd acted years ago, the way she looks today. And so it is the story of her battling to get her child back, reuniting to her family. The other stories that are followed are women that may have been incarcerated that are still trying to battle the system and regain their footing while also trying to stay sober. But also the women who are on the other side of recovery and trying to pull other women to their side, trying to help other women regain sobriety, stay sober, but more importantly, rebuild their lives that had been shattered by addiction.
Well, these are all incredible stories. I've come to really love this segment with you and the other filmmakers and participants you've brought along over the last couple of years for all that you introduce us to. It's great to see you.
It's nice to see you as well, Jared. Thank you so much.
Enjoy the festival, which comes a week after the Oscars. We can continue the cinematic celebration.
That's right. Vinfen.org.
Thank you so much. David Brown is Vinfen's Vice President of Communications and Development. The Vinfen Film Festival happens Saturday, March 28th at our GBH studios in Brighton, and also features screenings and panel discussions. To learn more, go to their website. Well, coming up, High Street Place Food Hall might as well be called Tiffany Faison Food Hall. She joins us to talk about Tigerbaby, her new and fifth food hall restaurant concept to delight downtown Boston. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Iranian missiles have been shot down in Turkish airspace. Officials there worry about being dragged into the war.
We openly stated that we never approve of Iran's attacks targeting sister countries, he said. This will serve no purpose other than exacerbating common pain and sowing the seeds of hostility between brothers.
That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering dynamic short programs tailored for mid-career professionals looking to build at executive.mit.edu. And the Lowell Institute, Living a Triggered Life podcast, in person, presented by the Museum of Science, with podcast hosts Roxanne and Keith Maskall. Friday, March 13th at 7:30. Registration info at lowellinstitute.org. And the Chevalier Theatre, presenting Dancing with the Celts, coming to Medford on March 13th. The Celts combine the sound of Ireland and Nashville and are accompanied by Irish step dancers. Ticket info at chevaliertheatre.com.
Wake up with Morning Edition. Dive deep with Boston Public Radio. Wind down with The Culture Show. Take a trip on the world and discover something new on All Things Considered. All on the GBH News app. Download it today on the App Store or Google Play.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from our studio at the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. For Tiffany Faison, her restaurants are never just restaurants. They're a chance to build a world with their own flavor, attitude, and point of view. She can channel the sublime comfort of Southern barbecue, turn champagne, hot dogs, and popcorn into something like a concession stand burnishing cocktail party swagger, and make a pizza counter feel like a blast of retro ecstasy. In recent years, she's been building building several of those worlds under one roof at High Street Place Food Hall downtown, where her concepts Bubble Bath, Tenderonis, Charming Gardener, and Dive Bar have helped shape the hall's personality since it opened in 2022. Now she's adding another. Tigerbaby draws inspiration from her much-missed Fenway restaurant Tiger Mama and brings Southeast and East Asian flavors back into her orbit, this time in a quick counter-service format designed for downtown crowds and repeat visits. The menu includes dishes like tiger tangerine chicken, Thai basil chicken, black pepper beef and broccoli, and popcorn dumplings, which sound really yummy. Tigerbaby is now open at High Street Place, Faison's 5th concept in the food hall. Welcome back to the Culture Show. It's great to see you.
I am so happy to be here. Who wrote that?
Chelsea, in all fairness. Chelsea, I embellish, but Chelsea writes most of Chelsea Burr's, our executive producer.
I'm sorry, Team Jared and Chelsea. I owe you my life. That was amazing.
But it's all true. We know it from being in your restaurants.
Very sweet. Thank you.
So the other thing the team did today was look up, what percentage of restaurant footage does basically Tiffany have at High Street? You have a quarter of High Street Place now.
Well, I don't know if it's quite a quart, maybe. We have been so lucky to have such good partners at High Street, and they have just been, we've been in lockstep together building this food hall, and it's wild because a lot of food halls have kind of seen varying degrees of success, and this food hall has just been a rocket ship. It's been so incredible, and I think I speak for all of the vendors in the food hall that we just feel really supported. The general manager of the food hall, Lauren Johnson, works day and night for programming and to make sure that people are happy and to make sure that all the vendors are getting what we need. So it's truly a partnership with everyone that's there. So I feel grateful to be able to have the opportunity to do more.
Well, for you as a restaurateur, what does it mean to have, so you don't have necessarily all the overhead of a big restaurant, but to have so many distinct imprints under one roof and so many opportunities for people within feet of each other?
It's so fun to be able to play. So it's instead of the major investment in a full service 4 walls restaurant, it allows us to explore things that we want to focus on without the fear and the investment of a larger kind of like full service restaurant. So, and it keeps our brains moving. It keeps us the ability to not that restaurants are boring, for the love, they are absolutely not boring. But the fun things about restaurants are that our brains get to take a walk through the world and explore things and think about things differently and invite people in to enjoy what we enjoy and love what we love. And it allows us to allow them to be happy and have a good time. That's the whole game.
Well, which leads us to now Tigerbaby and how Tiger Mama was so beloved. So how is this a relationship to Tiger Mama?
So and I miss Tiger Mama deeply. And every time I see people that say that they miss Tiger Mama, it really resonates with me. And I understand that. And I miss it too. Just a neighborhood and a pandemic and things that just didn't, at some point you just have to make hard decisions. And I deeply miss that food. I miss cooking it. It's the food I love most in the world, and I love eating it and cooking it. So we had this opportunity, and I thought, why don't we just play a little bit here? Certainly not all of Tiger Mama. When I didn't announce it, I put a little thing on Instagram that my face in front of the Tigerbaby logo, and people were, Jared, when I tell you, they were full orders in the comments. I would like the brown butter laksa. I would like that. And from years ago, dishes I hadn't even remembered that we had. It was really funny. So to have it resonate that deeply with people, it's also a bit of a risk, right? Because this is not Tiger Mama. This is a quick service, come and pick your entree with your rice. There's some things that are straight up what we used to do, the Singapore street noodles, the pat grapau. There are old friends that are on the menu, but it is not, it's not the depth and breadth of a full service restaurant. So.
Well, if people are streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel, they will see arrayed before me this sampling from Tigerbaby. So walk us through some of what you're offering and how you arrived at this.
I'm going to WOK you through this. Walk you through it. I know, it's bad dad jokes.
It took me a second. I'm not well versed in dad jokes.
I live in them. I'm so bad. This is pad krapao. So this is a very common. It's almost like a hallmark of a Thai dish. It's ground chicken with holy basil, Thai chilies, lots of garlic, and it's finished with Thai basil and a fried egg. That always goes over rice. So I literally just went back to Bangkok, and it was the first thing I had when I hit the ground. I was dying for a great pad krapao. So That was a Tiger original. This is black pepper beef with broccoli, so it's kind of our rendition of broccoli beef. There's more onions in it. There's more nuance of different peppers and different types of peppercorn in there that you wouldn't necessarily find in like your average version of it. This is Thai basil chicken, so it's this is also a very sort of traditional dish that you would find in Thailand. So chicken and green beans and red peppers and lots of Thai basil and a little bit of spice. This is Korean tteokbokki, so they're rice cakes, so they have this incredible chewy texture to them, almost like mochi, and that's served with I would equate it to like a Korean pork bolognese. So it's got like a
I was going to say,
flavor.
I thought you snuck something in from Tenderonis here.
Nope, I know it looks like vodka, like pasta vodka. It's not. So so it's got a little bit of spice to it, sesame seeds, scallions. This is tiger tangerine chicken. So that's our answer to that chicken dish that everyone was looking for. That's the General Gao's or the sesame chicken. So we use tangerine peel for it, and we make our own sauce with there's tons of tangerine, essentially juice in the sauce. So it's got this like tangy, sort of really fun quality to it. And last but not least, those are mala mushrooms, which was an item on the Tiger Mama menu. We've added chicken to that, but it is that mala, so the high spice, the like very spicy, actual like red pepper spice that we know, that Thai pepper spice with numbing spice as well, with those sort of like Szechuan peppercorns. The idea is that numbing allows you to kind of take more spice. So that is very spicy. So it's a mix of mushrooms and it's mustard greens in there with chicken as well.
So what came first, the chicken or the travel to Asia?
Yes.
See, I can keep up with your dad jokes.
Yes, you did it. You did it. Last but not least.
I'm so lame.
So you're not at all. Singapore street noodles. I can do this all day with the dad jokes. What came first? Probably the travel to Asia first. Yeah, I didn't have any idea how to do any of this before I started. And
but you were thinking that you were going to do, and then I know you went back recently too. So you have the concept that, okay, I'm going to bring this back, and then you go do your travel and see it up close, experience it up close.
It's, the irony is that I hadn't been back in so many years because the restaurants I have built have kept me from being able to travel back there. It was my best friend and I's 30th anniversary of being best friends. And so we were like, listen, you were my longest and most meaningful relationship. Like, let's celebrate this. So he wanted to go and had never been, and I needed to go back. So it was a really nice sort of like last looks before we opened Tigerbaby. It didn't really change much about there were nuances that changed about the food, but it didn't conceptually change what we were going to do.
I'm speaking with Tiffany Faison, chef, restaurateur, and television personality. I know you love when I talk all about that. Tigerbaby, her fifth and latest concept for High Street Place Food Hall, is open now. Going back to what we were talking about in the introduction about just the mood, the energy, the tone that your restaurants conjure, where does that come in the process for you?
It's about wanting people to be transported and honoring that when you come into my restaurants, you choose to spend your money and your time with me. And those are two resources that are not easily accessed in people's life. We don't always have all the money that we want, and we certainly don't have all the time that we want. So when you choose to come into our restaurants, I want to honor that with the most immersive experience that we can possibly do. And that's the vibe, the way you feel in the restaurant when you come in. That's the service. It's the level of food and beverage that we put in front of you. So it's all of that. And it's our way of saying that we value the choice that you make coming in. It's funny because I think that we went through this like industrial chic phase in restaurants for Boston for a long time, where everything kind of looked a little bit drab and it was a little, and we may have pushed it too far on the other side now, where I think there's something about vibe that's feeling a little vapid, where it's all vibe, not as much service as we'd like, and the food is maybe not the quality that we want. So for me, it's really important to bring all of those things to the table instead of just walking into something that transport you but doesn't deliver it.
That is your vision too.
All.
Yeah.
Yes. So I've found designers that I've worked with throughout the last 15 years that I've been doing this, and the best relationships I have are the ones that understand what I'd like to do and don't try and push me into something that I'm not saying or I'm not seeing, and that are truly collaborative, so that I can bring things and say, this is, by the time I'm doing something, I have it so clearly in my head what I want, for better or worse, because it's not always the perfect thing or the right thing, that I can be a difficult client for designers to work with, because I already see it. I know what I want.
And I'm asking a lot about this because I also really love design.
Same.
Where do you, we've talked about this.
Yes, we have.
Where do you get your tell me some of the things the myriad places you pull your design inspiration from.
I mean, I think as creative people, and it took a long time for me to say, like, yes, I'm a creative and I'm an artist. And there was a long time where chefs was like, it's not art and it's just work and blah, blah, blah. I am a creative, and you get it from the real answer, and it's so boring, but creatives get it from everywhere. There was a long time in my life that I would give myself a hard time for wandering and wasting time in my life and just walking around places, and I didn't understand what I was doing. And I was taking my brain for a walk and letting like my eyes and my heart and my head see all the information around me, and whether that was in Asia or whether that's in Europe or whether that's like walking down a street in Boston, it really is allowing yourself to give the care and the consideration of the creative part of your brain that it needs. You need to take your brain for a walk.
I want to ask about another concept that opened not too long ago. This is bubble bath.
Yes.
I don't know why I say concept. It's
okay. It's okay to say concept. They are.
Concept kind of makes it dry, but it's
definitely not dry. Tons of champagne, tons of wine, tons of cocktails.
Was that a dad joke response to what I said?
Auntie joke. I don't know.
So tell me about this place and the experience people have. And this is this kind of all of a sudden chic new part of Boston that just sprung up in one little end of Newbury Street.
Yes. So what used to be, I think it was like an engineering thing, I don't even know what to call it, at the end of Newbury and Mass Ave. It was just kind of an eyesore in the city. And it's been a new development. Samuels, my landlords from Fenway, own that. Bubble Bath is the 15th floor of Citizen M, and it is this gorgeous bar. It's we really treat it as a bar. You can eat enough there to make it a restaurant, but the idea is it's little bites, and it's a little bit more casual in concept, but still it's not stuffy, but it still is buttoned up in a way that is, like respectful. Again, it's about service and quality of what we're doing. And so we have an incredible wine program that's been put together by Charlie Gaeta, and Daniel Andres has done the bar program brilliantly. He came from New York. He's from here as a native. And Dan and I did our little snackies, and the room is really beautiful. It has floor to ceiling windows across the Charles you can see the entirety of the Charles all the way through into Back Bay, and we have a giant sort of roof deck the view is just unbelievable. So when I walked up there, when it was an option to put something up there, it was an immediate yes. Like, this is there. I have not seen that view. It's not like the Peru, like all the way up, which is stunning, and you can see everything at the view. It orients you into the city where you feel so deeply entrenched in the city in a really different way.
More accessible, probably, because it's a little lower down.
Yep.
You mentioned the snackies. You're really good at this. You saw how excited I got about popcorn dumplings.
Yes!
Where does that come in? How much do you just love to think about little bites?
I love to think about food in general. And then I love to think about food that surprises and delights people and allows you to have a really diverse and immersive experience in one visit. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So if I give you the option to have smaller portions, and you can do that, you can have 2 and come back every night that week and do the whole menu. That's also an option. But if you can, come in and share those bites with people and be able to kind of travel through a menu that has like 20 items on it, and the kitchen is the smallest kitchen you've ever seen. Like, I kick myself for the menu being this big. So, but if you can come in and have that experience, you can also do that with wine and cocktails and have small sips and understand how beautifully things can be paired together and why we love doing what we love so much.
I was just going to ask you if you have a Super Bowl party, but I guess I can flash forward and ask if you must have a pretty great Oscar party if you do that with great snacks.
Right. We actually had a Bad Bunny pre-Super Bowl party.
Did you?
Yes, we did. One of our bartenders is like a ringer for Bad Bunny, so we wanted to celebrate that. And restaurants can't have parties during the Super Bowl unless you have giant TVs. So it's just like it's the one day we're all dead and we know it, unless you're a sports bar. So.
And you never have time at home to have a party.
Not true. I just haven't yet. So I just renovated my house. It's finally done. I need to have people over and have a party. So.
Does your house echo at all your restaurants?
Yes. The same wine refrigerators that I have in both restaurants and both bubble baths are in my house. There's a little bit. My house is calmer. So I walk in and it doesn't evoke you into like another country. It centers you in like needing to put my brain to like not sleep, but a little bit of off mode.
Yeah, I can
relax
understand
mode.
that. Well, Tiffany Faison, so great to have you here as always. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh, I love hanging out with you, Jared. Thank you for having me.
Likewise. Tiffany Faison is a chef, restaurateur, and television personality. Tigerbaby, her 5th and latest concept for High Street Place Food Hall, is open now. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. A reminder that 1 week from today, Wednesday, March 18th, is our next Wednesday watch party. It's been 50 years since Taxi Driver motored onto the big screen. We're asking you if it still holds up. Join us here or call in. Join us here at the BPL or call in to tell us how you think it holds up. And tune in tomorrow for Maureen Aboud on her new cookbook about Lebanese cooking. We'll also be joined by New Yorker contributor and physician Dhruv Kular on what HBO's The Pit has taught him about being a doctor. I'm Jared Bowen. Thank you to everyone who came down to visit us here today. We love seeing you. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Spend your afternoon with us. Stay with us for GBH's All Things Considered at 4 and Marketplace at 6:30. But first, the world. A global view of today's headlines from the World Newsroom. Right here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Landvest Christie's International Real Estate, an independent brokerage representing residential and investment properties for buyers and sellers across New England and the Adirondacks since 1968. More at landvest.com. In the quaint Northern Irish town of Portdevine, the detectives must grapple with ethical dilemmas while solving criminal malarkey and dubious schemes. Watch Hope Street